Hello, my dear friend of sleepy history. Welcome to the Jurassic Era, a time when trees were taller than your life goals, them lived so long that they forget their own birthdays, and dinosaurs strutted around like they owned the planet. Tonight, you're entering an era. Sauropods so long they needed Google Maps just to find their own tail. Predators with arms like fishballs but egos the size of continents. And a climate so hot, Earth looked at sweaters and said, what are those? It's also the era where some dinosaurs tried to go on a diet, but failed. Others looked handsome but had their breath as bad. Now put your phone down, let go of the deadline. Let's go to sleep with the dinosaurs, okay? By the way, what time is it where you are? Comment to see if anyone else is awake at this hour with me. Now take a deep breath, close your eyes. The jungle waits, and history is about to tuck you in. 1. When Earth lagged entirely, the Triassic-Jurassic mass extinction. You know that moment when you're deep into a video game, totally in the zone. Everything's working, your character's thriving, you've got full health, rare loot, a solid team. Then suddenly lag, and boom, you're dead. Not because of skill, but because the universe glitched. That's basically what happened to Earth at the end of the Triassic period. Except it wasn't Wi-Fi, it was volcanoes. And instead of rage quitting, nearly 3/4 of all species on the planet got permanently logged out. No respawn, no patch update. Just exitlife.exe. Mass extinction. Because Earth said, nope. Earth, our dramatic diva of a planet, has gone through 5 official mass extinctions, and honestly, a few unofficial mental breakdowns. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction was mass extinction number 4, a real mood killer. The Triassic had been wild. Giant amphibians were making waves. Weird reptile experiments were running around like evolutionary interns, and early dinosaurs were just starting their awkward teenage phase. Then, somewhere around 201 million years ago, life got punched in the face. The cause? Earth got volcanic. Like, insanely volcanic. We're talking about the Central Atlantic Magmatic Province, or CAMP, for short. Though there was nothing chill about this camp, it was one of the largest volcanic events in Earth's history. Basically, the planet opened up like a pizza oven gone rogue and spewed lava and gas across 4 continents. We're talking greenhouse gases on steroids, CO2, SO2, methane. This wasn't just a little global warming. This was Earth getting blackout drunk on carbon and puking into the atmosphere for 500,000 years. The oceans turned acidic. The climate, mood swings worthy of a soap opera. Oxygen levels dropped like your phone battery at 1%. And biodiversity took the worst group exit in natural history since the dinosaurs would later get eaten. Who got wiped? Who else is left? The ones who are tougher than Monday. The extinction wiped out a huge portion of marine life, including conodonts, tiny toothy eel things, reef builders, corals and sponges, basically the interior designers of the sea, ammonoids, spiral-shelled squid vibes, very trendy, countless fish and mollusks who didn't sign up for a boiling acid pool. On land, the apocalypse wasn't much better. The many large cruritarsans, relatives of today's crocodiles, bit the dust. Several early mammal-like reptiles, therapsids, finally closed shop. A bunch of other oddballs like armored plant eaters and beaky herbivores got ghosted by history. But here's where it gets juicy. Dinosaurs who had previously been the underdogs, kind of like that quiet kid in class who suddenly gets a 6-pack over summer break, survived. Not just survived, but thrived. Because after this extinction, there was a massive power vacuum. The popular kids were gone. The gym was empty, and dinosaurs walked in like, "Guess we run the school now." Earth's version of, "Sorry, not sorry." You might be wondering, why does this happen? Why can't Earth just chill? Because Earth isn't your mom. It's not here to make sure you're comfortable. It's a giant rock hurtling through space, trying not to implode. Sometimes it resets its systems. Sometimes those resets involve extinction-level events. Was it personal? Probably not. Did it hurt? Oh, absolutely. Was it necessary? Arguably yes, because after that wipeout, nature got creative. From disaster comes opportunity, unless you're dead. Once the ash cleared, something weird happened. Evolution hit the gas pedal. With fewer competitors, the survivors got weird, bold, and ambitious. Dinosaurs started experimenting with size, speed, teeth, and feathers. Mammals, still small, still sneaky, quietly evolved in the shadows, watching and waiting like they were prepping for a slow-burn revenge arc. Conifer forests expanded. Lush landscapes bloomed again. Earth started dressing like it had a fresh breakup and something to prove. The Jurassic wasn't just a new chapter. It was Earth's full-on rebrand. And if this sounds familiar, here's the uncomfortable part. Everything that wiped out 76% of life back then, we're kind of doing it again. Carbon dioxide rising like it's going out of style? Check. Ocean acidification? Yep. Temperature spikes, unstable ecosystems, extinction rates climbing? Big OL check. The difference is, back then it was volcanic. Now it's us. And we don't have the excuse of natural causes. We have Wi-Fi, oat milk, and documentaries narrated by David Attenborough. So yeah, we can know better, we can do better, or we can just wait for Mass Extinction number 6 like it's another Netflix original. When life glitches, reboot harder. The end of the Triassic was brutal, but it also cleared the way for dinosaurs to rise, for forests to flourish, and eventually, for that weird naked ape called us to arrive. Mass extinctions are Earth's harshest plot twists, but they're also the weird punctuation marks between eras. Every time, life comes back stronger, weirder, and more inventive, sometimes with feathers. So if you ever feel like the system is crashing, remember, some of evolution's greatest glow-ups came after total collapse. You just gotta survive the lag. To a misty morning, the Jurassic begins to dream. Modern comparison time. Imagine if your office fired 76% of the staff overnight. Devastating, sure. But now, there's parking. There's room for growth. You can actually get a seat in the lunchroom. That's what the Jurassic World inherited. A chaotic, clean desk, ready for new ideas. Giant reptiles? Flying lizards? Trees that shoot cones the size of your head? Yes. And if you're thinking, wow, Earth seems kind of toxic. Yes. Yes, she was. But sometimes, toxicity clears the path for transformation. Just maybe don't try this detox method at home. Volcano juice and CO2 smoothies aren't exactly trending on health blogs. So here we are, around 201 million years ago. The Triassic is out. Jurassic is in. And Mother Earth, bless her molten heart, just rage quit 76% of all species. Bam, gone. No 2-week notice. No farewell cupcakes. Just lava, carbon dioxide, and a whole lotta adapt or die. Why? Oh, just your average massive volcanic tantrum. Some scientists call it the Central Atlantic Magmatic Province. We call it the Great Planetary Mood Swing. Earth was basically having an apocalyptic meltdown and vented it all over what's now the Atlantic Ocean. Literally, that's how the Atlantic started forming. A breakup so bad, it cracked a continent. Volcanoes erupted for over 500,000 years. Let that sink in. You get mad for 2 minutes in traffic and it ruins your day. Earth stayed mad for 500,000 years. And she let everyone know. CO2 levels spiked. Temperatures skyrocketed. Ocean acidity climbed like your anxiety before a job interview. If you were a creature that couldn't adapt fast, bye. If you needed a specific niche or delicate balance to survive, also bye. If your motto was, "I'll evolve when I feel like it," yeah, bye Felicia. Now, here's the part they don't teach in school. Mass extinctions are brutal, but they're also nature's weird way of refreshing the canvas. You see, after Earth's epic tantrum, things got strangely beautiful. With the competition gone, all the evolutionary weirdos had a chance to rise. It was like the morning after a wild party. Mess everywhere. Half the guests are gone, but the survivors, they start dancing on the tables. Ferns spread like gossip. Conifers grew into forests tall enough to hide your emotional baggage. Reptiles said, "Let's go big or go extinct," and began dreaming of dinosaur domination. Even the skies started whispering about flight, because in the Jurassic, Earth wasn't just healing. She was reinventing herself. Full rebrand, new look, new vibe, same unstable core. Let's pause and appreciate the glow up. After being a fiery mess, Earth started cooling down. Rain returned, clouds formed, forests breathed. This wasn't just any morning. It was the kind of misty dawn that poets write about and lizards evolve wings in. And speaking of wings, pterosaurs took to the skies. Not birds yet, but weird cousins who clearly thought flapping skin stretched between long fingers was a good idea. Stylish? No. Effective? Surprisingly, yes. Meanwhile, oceans, still salty, still moody, welcomed marine reptiles like ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs. The fish were like, "Excuse me, we live here." But the reptiles moved in anyway, because why not? Land was full of drama. Oceanfront was trending. Jurassic Earth became a wild startup incubator. Forget tech brothers, think scale bros. Evolution went full Shark Tank. Hi sharks. I'm a proto-dinosaur with longer legs and a more efficient lung system. I'm seeking $500,000 in survival advantages in exchange for 10% of my lineage. Sounds scalable. Let's go global. Reptiles diversified faster than streaming services. From small, zippy bipeds to lumbering herbivores with necks longer than your attention span, it was a time of bold experiments. And here's the kicker, most of them worked. Because with fewer competitors and a world that was literally reshaping itself, even weird ideas got a chance. Final thought for this misty morning. Sometimes, life burns it all down. Not to punish you, but to make space. Space for things that would never have dared to grow in the shadow of how it used to be. The Jurassic didn't inherit peace. It inherited possibility. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of reset we all secretly crave. Minus the lava. Seriously, no lava, please. Speech balloon coming up next. When life gets tall, forests rise like living temples. And yes, it includes plants that look like they bench press boulders. 3 spring waters, where life red reams itself. Let's be real. After the Triassic-Jurassic extinction, Earth wasn't just detoxing. She was crying in the shower, blasting sad playlists, asking herself, was I too much? Spoiler, she was, but she came out fabulous. Moisturized, rebooted, and once again, strangely attractive to scaly creatures. The oceans had been moody, the volcanoes had rage issues, the CO2 levels were, frankly, offensive. But once the worst was over and 76% of life was quietly unfriended, Earth did what any freshly single queen would do. She glowed up. Cue the springs. Not metaphorical ones, though we love a spiritual rebirth moment. We're talking literal, bubbling freshwater springs, gurgling out from volcanic rocks like Earth's personal spa jets. These little aquatic havens didn't just look cute. They were petri dishes of reinvention. Amphibians, reptiles, and the early ancestors of modern life all crawled in, blinked in the mist, and whispered, "Okay, but what if we just evolved harder?" The return of the chill zones. In the Jurassic, spring-fed streams weren't just background noise for a mindfulness app. They were survival hotspots. Picture it. Lush fern carpets, moss like green velvet, dragonflies the size of dinner plates just vibing in slow motion. And in the shallows, a generation of life forms trying to figure out what the heck just happened. Some tried the same old strategies. Maybe if I just look like my Triassic ancestors, nobody will notice? Sorry, Karen the fish. Evolution doesn't do nostalgia. The spring waters rewarded those who dared to be weird. Slimmer bodies, better lungs, eyeballs that could peek above the water and say, "Y'all still alive out here?" This is the era when early amphibians said, "Land? Scary, but maybe, just maybe, manageable." The rise of the second chance celebrities. Let's talk about frogs. Because frogs are the ultimate comeback story. They're squishy, squeaky, and occasionally scream like banshees when picked up. And yet, Jurassic frogs were icons in the making. They weren't massive. No spikes, no armor, just vibes and legs. Legs for leaping away from anything too dramatic. Which, let's face it, is a mood we can all relate to. While the bigger beasts were busy evolving neck frills and tail clubs, the frogs said, "I'm good. I'll just chill by the stream and wait for the next extinction. Thanks." Modern frogs still carry that legacy. Amphibians in general became nature's emotional support animals. Always damp, always a little anxious, but weirdly essential for a functioning ecosystem. Scientists today study their skin for medical research. Jurassic Earth just let them sit and be moist. The reptilian ambition. But not everyone was into quiet stream life. Some reptiles rolled into spring-fed valleys like they owned the place. They had that "I just survived the apocalypse, now give me a franchise" energy. Crocodilians, for example, evolved sleek bodies and jawlines so sharp they could slice through the food chain. These weren't your lazy, modern swamp potatoes. Jurassic crocs were agile, aquatic, and honestly kind of dramatic. If they had TikTok, it would just be slow-motion lunges and captions like, "POV, you underestimated me." They weren't full-time land dwellers yet, but they were watching, waiting, calculating. You could almost hear them muttering, "Dinosaurs are fun and all, but I'm playing the long game." Meanwhile, in the puddles of destiny, let's not forget the fish, the unsung weirdos of every ancient spring. They didn't have flashy feathers or thunderous footsteps, but they had something better: internal skeleton upgrades. Ray-finned fish, the group that would someday give rise to all your sushi and clownfish emojis, were secretly building the blueprint for future aquatic dominance. In these spring waters, some began experimenting with fins that moved differently, jaws that snapped smarter, and scales that said, "No parasite, not today." This is when biodiversity began to get spicy again. Also, let's be honest, some of them just got really good at hiding. Survival tip number 101 from the Jurassic Puddles. When in doubt, get tiny, get slippery, and get out of sight. The soft power of streams. So why do we care about these streams and springs? Because they were Earth's version of a quiet side hustle. While the big, flashy, evolutionary moments were happening on land, with dinosaurs starting their influencer careers and conifer forests putting on their best cathedral looks, down in the trickling waters, something gentler was unfolding. Small species found safe havens. Ecosystems stabilized. Food webs gently braided themselves back together. And new mutations had the space to actually matter. It's a reminder for all of us. Not every breakthrough comes with a boom. Some start with a burble, a quiet shift, a little toe in the water, a moment of asking, what if we just try something different? Imagine if after a messy breakup, you moved into a quiet cabin by a mountain spring. You meditate, you journal, you accidentally evolve into a whole new version of yourself with gills and improved vision. Now apply that to an entire planet. The spring waters of the Jurassic weren't glamorous, but they were necessary. Without these zones of soft reset, Earth wouldn't have built the resilience needed for what came next. Giant thunder lizards, aerial acrobats, and ecosystems that sang with complexity. So the next time you're near a bubbling brook or freshwater spring, remember, this is where comeback stories are born. Quiet, damp, low-key magical. And if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, take a note from the Jurassic. Soak, adapt, evolve, quietly slay. For forests rise like living temples. Let's pause for a second and give a slow clap to Earth. Because after nearly annihilating 76% of her living tenants in a volcanic rage spiral, she decided to plant some trees. Big ones, weird ones, ones that didn't just whisper in the wind, they preached. Welcome, dear reader, to the spiritual awakening of the Jurassic jungles. This wasn't your average, let's toss some moss on the rocks and call it a comeback situation. No. Earth went full Pinterest mood board. Picture soaring conifers, proud araucarias reaching skyward like living skyscrapers, and elegant cycads flexing their armored leaves like botanical bodybuilders. These forests didn't just grow. They declared their presence like introverts who finally got the house to themselves and turned up the music. And speaking of music, have you ever stood in a forest and just listened? In the Jurassic, the trees weren't just background scenery. They were the cathedrals of life, with layered canopies that filtered the light like stained glass, casting shifting mosaics onto the fern-covered ground. Every breeze through those branches was a whispered sermon. Every droplet of dew clinging to a needle was a reminder. Growth takes time, but oh, how beautiful it becomes. But don't be fooled by the serenity. These trees were not here to play nice. Forest life in the Jurassic was a battle of sunlight and survival. The moment a seedling poked its head out of the soil, it had one job: climb, fast, or die trying. The upper canopy was the VIP lounge of photosynthesis. And if you didn't get a reservation, you withered in the shadows. Brutal? Yes, but also kind of poetic. Nature doesn't hand out participation trophies. She hands out shade. Some of these trees were downright dramatic. The araucarias, for example, were like the high priests of the forest. Ancient, slow-growing, and covered in scale-like leaves that said, "I've survived 3 extinctions. Don't even talk to me about drought." Meanwhile, the cycads stood around looking like armored pineapples with an attitude. They'd been around since the Permian and had no plans to leave. Honestly, if cycads had a motto, it would be unkillable, unbothered, unevolved. And then, like the forest equivalent of a surprise party, ginkgos started showing up. With their fan-shaped leaves and refusal to fit in, they became the quirky uncles of the plant world. Ginkgos didn't care about trends. They were vibes, and they're still around today, chilling in city parks, outliving air pollution and probably your houseplants. But let's talk about what all this foliage really meant. With the forests rising, the stage was set for life to stretch upwards. Insects flourished, pollinators began experimenting with their weird little mutualisms, and small reptiles started climbing trees, not just running from predators, but building entirely new lifestyles. Canopies became condos, bark became highways, and the leaf litter below was an all-you-can-eat buffet of opportunity. It's easy to romanticize forests. We should. They are the lungs of the land, the keepers of water, the shelter of the small and the giants alike. But let's not forget, forests are also masterclasses in resilience. These trees didn't sprout from peace and quiet. They rose from ash, acid rain, and chaos. They grew tall not because life was gentle, but because life dared to begin again. There's something painfully familiar about that, isn't there? Sometimes your personal extinction event comes in the form of a heartbreak, a burnout, a dream gone stale, and it feels like the end. But maybe, just maybe, it's the clearing before the forest. The silence before new roots stretch out into the soil of possibility. Because what the Jurassic reminds us, in chlorophyll and bark and morning mist, is that beauty doesn't rush. And strength doesn't always look like speed or dominance. Sometimes it's just staying rooted, growing slowly, reaching for light in your own time. So if you're there, standing in the dark under the canopy of someone else's success, someone else's loudness, someone else's highlight reel, remember, you're not behind. You're becoming, just like the forests did. Quietly, deeply, without asking permission. Let the Jurassic trees be your reminder. You don't have to grow fast. You just have to grow real. And if all else fails, be a ginkgo. Weird, ancient, unbothered, still here. Part 3. The super huge dinosaurs, still roaring like an earthquake. 1. Brachiosaurus. The long-necked vegan philosopher whose snore could shake a forest. If one fine Jurassic morning, you wake up in a misty forest, sunlight slicing through thick foliage, and you hear a low, rumbling snore that feels like a baby earthquake, congrats. You're near a Brachiosaurus, one of the largest herbivores ever to cruise across Earth like a Zen monk practicing deep breathing before climate change was even a thing. But don't let his peaceful vibes fool you. Brachiosaurus isn't simple just because he's chill. Nah, he's that quiet but wise kid who sits in the back row of class, doesn't talk to anyone, and somehow knows the meaning of life, but won't say it out loud. Why? Either too lazy to explain or too busy snacking on leaves. The giant who didn't need drama to be famous. In a world where survival meant roaring, clawing, and chasing deadlines, aka not getting eaten, Brachiosaurus just didn't care. He wasn't here for the Hunger Games. He strolled through life on 4 chunky legs, head raised like he was trying to catch signals from the universe. Size? Try 23 meters long, around 13 meters tall, and a feather-light 50 tons. Like hauling a fleet of buses into the clouds and feeding them salad. From a distance, he looked like a walking construction crane. But instead of building condos, he just chewed on penthouse leaves. People always ask, wait, wouldn't all that height make him dizzy? A very TikTok 10-second question kind of vibe. And here's the real answer. Brachiosaurus had an elite circulatory system. His heart had to pump blood from his chest all the way up that sky-high neck. Not just beating to stay alive, beating like a god-tier hydraulic pump. Respect. Heart as big as a water tank, neck taller than a streetlight, and a brain the size of a dried raisin. Basically, the prehistoric version of that guy at the gym. Ripped body, posts shirtless selfies daily, but couldn't find Africa on a map if his life depended on it. That's Brachiosaurus for you, walking like a celebrity bodyguard, flexing a body built like a skyscraper, and thinking, well, just enough to remember how to breathe. His brain was tiny, like lemon-sized, and not even the juicy kind. But don't get it twisted. That miniature brain still managed to operate a 10-ton body, a neck like a construction crane, and a surprisingly chill walk. That alone is a giant slap in the face to the bigger brain equals smarter crowd. Because sometimes you don't need to be a genius to thrive. You just need to not go extinct. And in that department, Brachiosaurus crushed it for millions of years, unlike half the influencer accounts today that barely last 3 months. That neck? Jurassic Wi-Fi tower. Modern humans use smartphones to stay connected. Brachiosaurus used his neck. That thing was so long that if you were standing on the ground shouting, "Yo, dinner's ready," it'd take 3 seconds for the message to even reach his ears. But this wasn't just a flex. His 9-meter neck was the ultimate tool for exclusive dining. He reached gourmet leaves no short-stacked herbivore could ever dream of. High risk, high reward. And yeah, having a neck that long isn't all glamour. One wrong sleeping angle and you wake up with spinal regret from head to tail. So if he seemed calm, it's not just spiritual maturity. It's also intense cervical maintenance. Vegan doesn't mean weak. It means he doesn't have time for you. Some folks today still think being vegan makes you weak. But try standing in front of a Brachiosaurus and telling him, "Hey bro, plants don't have enough protein." One glance at your microscopic shadow under his belly, and you'll question your own existence. His diet? All-you-can-eat buffet of ferns, conifers, and seed plants. Clean, green, and Jurassic approved. Straight up farm to mouth. And to digest all that salad, his gut worked like a bioreactor, fermenting, churning, producing the kind of gas clouds that could reroute bird flight. Pro tip: never stand behind one. Yet, thanks to the squeaky clean menu, he lived long, stayed unbothered, and skipped all the carnivore beefs. No stress over hunting, no anxiety over being hunted, no scandals, no hashtag meat eater drama, just peaceful grazing in a chaotic Jurassic world. A dream life for any Gen Z currently juggling 3 jobs just to pay rent. His greatest weapon, pure, unbothered silence. While others had to roar and stomp to be noticed, Brachiosaurus just existed. Quietly, powerfully, like a tree that breathes. That's all it took to have presence. Even apex predators like Allosaurus had to think twice before messing with him. You try taking on a 50-ton giant who could casually snap your spine with one backwards kick. This dude didn't need weapons. His existence was the threat. It's like that one person who walks into a room and suddenly no one jokes around. Not because they're mean, but because their calm vibe just resets the room. That's Brachiosaurus. Zero noise, maximum presence. A little healing for your soft human soul. Okay, real talk. You're probably not 13 meters tall. You don't weigh 50 tons. You don't eat pine trees. And you definitely don't have a 9-meter neck to stretch above toxic conversations. But you know what? You still have the right to be quiet, to not chase drama, to be steady in a world that's too loud. You don't need to roar to be valid. Sometimes, like Brachiosaurus, you just need to hold your ground, stay green, inside and out, and keep walking. So the next time someone says you're slow, boring, or not main character enough, remember, yeah, I'm slow, but I outlived the loud ones. They fossilized in Chapter 2. Imagine Brachiosaurus with social media. If Brachiosaurus had TikTok today, every video would be like, POV, I take a breath and the forest shakes. Hashtag just Zen things. Instagram, only one post, a moody neck angle selfie under blue skies, captioned, stay tall, stay calm. Facebook, quietly blocking drama, heart reacting on tree pics, occasionally reposting memes like, don't lower your head, you'll drop your crown. LinkedIn, herbivore, 50 tons of peace, expert in high-altitude foraging, open to networking, not to threats. Final word, you don't have to scream to be remembered. In a Jurassic world full of chaos, Brachiosaurus wasn't chasing clout. He wasn't fighting for attention. He was just there, like a fog-covered mountain, a breathing skyscraper, a forest's backbone. And maybe, in your world of crushing deadlines, ghosted texts, and career confusion, you need a little Brachiosaurus energy. Because not everyone who's quiet is soft. Not every plant eater lacks bite. And not everyone with a long neck is here to overlook you. Sometimes they're just looking for better leaves. 2. Diplodocus. Longer than your ex's excuses, lazier than a Monday mood. If evolution had a chill out button, Diplodocus sat on it for 50 million years. Imagine a creature longer than your latest relationship timeline, but with the emotional engagement of a dead Zoom mic. A dinosaur so extra in size yet so minimal in effort, it practically invented passive existence. This gentle long boy stretched up to 27 meters. That's 88 feet for our I refuse to learn metric friends, or roughly the length of every excuse you've made for not going to therapy. But don't expect that length to come with speed or motivation. This wasn't your gym-crushing alpha bro. Diplodocus was built like a protein shake but moved like an overworked librarian. Just vibe and chew. That's the whole life plan. Big neck, low effort. The original stretch queen. Let's talk about that neck. Longer than the patience of your high school math teacher. With up to 15 vertebrae, this dino could graze a whole salad bar without taking a step. Efficient? Absolutely. Ambitious? Absolutely not. This was the plant-based queen who tried cutting carbs and meat to slim down but failed so hard she became the length of a commuter train. She's the living embodiment of just one more leaf turned into oops. I'm accidentally the biggest thing in this ecosystem. It didn't climb, didn't hunt, didn't fight. Diplodocus was on a lifelong yoga retreat, stretching into the horizon and channeling that resting plant face energy. Diet culture flop. Salad life, still thick. Diplodocus was a full-time vegan, and not even the preachy kind. Just quietly out here, inhaling ferns like they were chips during a Netflix binge. It didn't chew much, just grabbed and gulped. A lazy digestive system powered by even lazier effort. Basically, body by plants, size by I don't care anymore. It's like going on a kale cleanse and waking up shaped like a city bus. You tried, boo. You tried. And the teeth? Peg-shaped, front-loaded, and designed for leaf stripping, not leaf sipping. Even its mouth was like, ugh, fine, I guess I'll eat. But here's the kicker. Diplodocus replaced its teeth every month. That's right, a built-in dental plan. You, still skipping dentist appointments. This dino, fresh grill every 35 days. Floss who? Brain so small, vibes so big. Let's not pretend this was a genius. Its brain was banana-sized, literally. One banana to control 20 tons of body mass, 88 feet of attitude, and one mood, neutral. Imagine handing a toddler the keys to an 18-wheeler. That was evolution's plan here. But you know what? It worked. Because when your whole job is, don't die and keep chewing, you don't need algebra. Diplodocus was the original himbo. Tall, gorgeous, plant-based, emotionally unavailable, and impossible to argue with because there was nothing in there to argue with. The tail that slaps harder than your group chat. Now let's talk about that tail. Longer than your week, snappier than your ex at brunch. This wasn't just a butt accessory. This was prehistoric artillery. Some paleontologists believe it could crack like a whip, even break the sound barrier. So yes, Diplodocus might have been slow, clueless, and constantly grazing, but if you annoyed it, you got sonic boom slapped back to the Triassic. It didn't fight often, but when it did, it was loud. The Jurassic version of I said what I said. Movement, minimal. Drama, none. Survival, perfect. Diplodocus didn't bother with speed or strategy. Its whole vibe was walk slow, chew slower, blend into the herd. Let your tail do the talking. It wasn't armored. It had no claws. It just got too big to be bullied and too chill to start anything. Basically, I don't want smoke, but I do have a 40-foot whip if you bring it. This made it a low-effort legend. The kind of presence that enters a room slowly, eats all the greens casually, and leaves eventually without a single emotional ripple. A mood, a message, a mess we adore. Diplodocus is more than a dinosaur. It's a lifestyle. It's your Sunday self. It's your unbothered best friend. It's your 2020 burnout, but make it fabulous. In a world obsessed with productivity, achievement, and noise, Diplodocus just was. It didn't rise and grind. It rose and grazed. No goals, no grind set, no influencer energy. Just a long-necked, slow-walking, salad-scarfing legend who accidentally defined soft life before it was cool. A final roast and respect. Yes, Diplodocus was lazy. Yes, it had the brain power of a sock. Yes, it lived like a forest vacuum cleaner with zero ambition. But you know what? Survived. Thrived. It never chased. And it never cracked under pressure unless it was cracking the air with its tail. So maybe the lesson here isn't that it was dumb or dull. Maybe the lesson is you don't have to be fast, fierce, or flashy to be unforgettable. You just have to be so completely yourself that even millions of years later, someone's still out here writing sarcastic odes to your leafy fabulousness. Diplodocus, the gentle roast king. Long lazy, legendary. 3. Apatosaurus. New name, same old dino. Some dinosaurs live peacefully. No drama, no scandal, just eat, sleep, repeat. And then there's Apatosaurus, a gigantic herbivore that somehow stirred up the entire field of paleontology like it was auditioning for the face, Jurassic Edition. Let's start with the name. Apatosaurus sounds like the name of a side character in a historical drama, gentle, proper, low profile. Nobody expected it to be one of the most scandalous brand identity crises in prehistoric history. And no, not because it lived wildly or did anything crazy. The drama happened because, well, let's just say Apatosaurus went in for a cosmetic makeover but didn't have enough money to finish the full package. A makeover gone wrong. At first, Apatosaurus didn't have the elegant, giraffe-like neck of Brachiosaurus or the whiptail swag of Diplodocus. It was just massive, thick-bodied, with a medium-length neck, a head shaped like a travel adapter, and a brain the size of a dried apricot. Imagine 20 tons of muscle with the processing power of bad Wi-Fi in a tunnel. But hey, it lived long and mindlessly. Resilient. Then came the late 19th century. Paleontologists were digging bones like it was the dinosaur version of Antiques Roadshow. They unearthed a massive skeleton missing a head. Instead of waiting for the right one, they improvised. Took a skull from another species, slapped it on, and boom, Brontosaurus was born. Name meaning Thunder Lizard. It sounded like a Marvel superhero in prehistoric form. Powerful, mysterious, marketable. So Apatosaurus lived under this brand new stage name, Brontosaurus, for nearly 100 years. Who cares if your actual bones are a bit basic? Slap on a bold name, and suddenly you're the Beyoncé of the Jurassic herbivores. But life's not a TikTok filter. Fast forward to the 1970s. Science got an update like the first full-body checkup after 65 million years. Turns out, Apatosaurus was Brontosaurus. Same species, same skeleton, which meant the name Brontosaurus was a mistake all along. They'd been calling it the wrong thing for nearly a century. It was like spending years posting glow-up selfies, only to get exposed as using AI filters. Bronto fans were outraged. That new name sounds too soft. Where's the thunder? Where's the power? Science, meanwhile, was cold and factual, like a crush texting you up, then ghosting. Sorry, they said. Your real name is Apatosaurus. Please return to your original ID. The result? A giant, gentle, leaf-eating creature suddenly became a victim of branding failure. Like someone who'd spent thousands on cosmetic surgery to change their life, only to have the doctor say, "Oops, we only finished half the package. You'll need to come back next century." Labeled, misunderstood, still vibing. So for almost 100 years, Apatosaurus lived under the alias Bronto. When people started calling it by the old name again, it was as confused as someone being addressed by their full name after going by a cool nickname for years. The name Apatosaurus literally means deceptive lizard. Fitting, since its story is one big accidental twist, the kind that forces you to rewrite textbooks and explain to your kids why their favorite dino just got renamed like a pop star going through a rebrand. But let's be clear, Apatosaurus didn't ask for any of this. It wasn't chasing clout. It just wanted to graze, nap, poop, and occasionally swing its tail. Oh yeah, that tail. It was long, like Wi-Fi router to bedroom long. And scientists think it could snap like a whip loud enough to break the sound barrier. Basically, Apato was calm, until it wasn't. Step on its nerves and you'd lose Bluetooth for a week. A day in the life, the peaceful giant. Apatosaurus lived a simple, repetitive life, much like a modern office worker. A morning, munching ferns like someone on an eternal eat-clean diet who still doesn't know why the weight won't drop. Afternoon, napping like you just came back from an office buffet. Evening, wagging its tail at a fellow Apato in a hopeless flirtation attempt. A night, sleeping early because, well, there's no Netflix in the Jurassic. Big body, bigger drama. Sure, Apatosaurus didn't get the influencer-level fame of Brachiosaurus, tall, rich, elegant, or Diplodocus, long tail, artsy vibe. But it did carry a dramatic legacy, like someone who gained 1 million followers through face filters, then got their account suspended because their selfies didn't match their ID. And even though it wasn't tall, Apato was thick. Its neck wasn't high, but it was jacked. Imagine someone who does neck workouts 3 times a day. Still, the brain remained tiny. so it often forgot what it was doing in the middle of a field, spinning around 3 times before remembering, "Oh right, I was looking for the bathroom." The message beneath the muscles. Here's the truth. Apatosaurus is all of us. It's anyone who tried to rebrand themselves, change their name, style, energy, hoping for a fresh start. It's the ones who went through a glow-up, a career shift, a breakup recovery, only to realize people still see the old you. But you know what? That's okay. Because even with the confusion, mislabeling, and half-finished makeover, Apatosaurus stayed soft, steady, and unbothered. It never lost its core. It reminds us, you don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't need validation to exist boldly. Even if people remember the wrong version of you, you can still show up as your truest self every single day. So if you've ever tried to change and felt like no one noticed, or worse, like everyone rejected the new you, just remember, Apatosaurus once tried to be the thunder lizard too. But in the end, it learned that living honestly is far less exhausting than pretending to roar. You don't need a dramatic name to be important. You don't need perfection to be valid. Whether you're called Apato, Bronto, or that Dino with the weird vibe, you still matter. You are still enough. So stretch that metaphorical neck, take a deep breath, and eat your leaves proudly. You survived extinction-level branding chaos. You're doing just fine. For the way these guys ate is exactly like you ordering food after a breakup. If you've ever sat alone at 2 a.m., one arm clutching your stomach, the other fiddling with your delivery app, eyes teary, heart shattered, congratulations. You are the spiritual descendant of Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, and the whole gang of big-footed, small-brained Jurassic dinos. The only difference? You might be devouring fried chicken. They were devouring grass. It wasn't a casual nibble and put down the fork situation. These creatures ate like they were trying to chew the earth itself. Seriously, they ate tons of grass every single day, from before sunrise until the moon got bored and left them alone. They chewed longer than an Indian soap opera, more persistently than your last breakup, and replayed the ritual more times than a YouTube ad mid-video. Have you eaten grass on the hill today? No, but I ordered some discounted ferns in the woodland this morning. A typical day in the life of a sauropod looked like this. 6 a.m., wake up, yawn a neck stretch longer than your own. 6:05 a.m., eat. 10 a.m., eat again. 3 p.m., walk and eat at the same time. 8 p.m., take a break, then switch to eating routes. 10 p.m., sleep and dream about eating. They weren't gluttons out of choice. Their giant, multi-ton bodies and stomachs like mini apartment blocks meant stopping chewing equals stopping living. Think about how panicked you get when the power cuts and your fridge is bare. Now imagine that times 1,000. Earth spent over 200 million years covering itself in a majestic green blanket. Primeval forests, misty conifers, and ferns the size of umbrellas, only to create 2 massive dinosaur species that ate it all. Now that's a plot twist no one saw coming. Plants were probably screaming in despair. Excuse me? I spent hundreds of millions of years crawling out of the ocean, evolving to survive on land, making it through mass extinctions, just to get munched on raw by some long-necked, bad-breath giants? Nature clearly has a dark sense of humor, and the tragedy didn't end there. After the dinosaurs came humans, still eating plants, just with dipping sauce and Instagram stories. To maintain that terror-sized physique, they needed massive amounts of energy. Yet grass, sadly, isn't very nutrient-rich. Have you ever gone 3 days eating salad for every meal? Dizzy yet? Sauropods ate salad for all their meals with zero fancy dressings. No low-carb options, no extra egg. Nothing. They just ate. Survival was their chef. They developed a digestive system so advanced, their stomachs were like football fields. They fermented food like they were brewing Dino wine, holding on to meals for a week to squeeze out every single calorie. Sound familiar? You don't just eat. Once you start, you go all in, even licking the packaging clean. No chew but chew forever. Unlike you, who picks up your fork, bites, chews exactly 32 times, drinks water, and then digests with salads and fruit. Sauropods had conveyor belt mouths. Chew, swallow, on and on, no stopping, no thinking, no zen reflection. Their teeth were like disposable chopsticks. Once worn down, they'd regrow a fresh set. So if you catch yourself stress eating without chewing, just shoveling food into your mouth, remember, Jurassic ancestors did it millions of years before you. These dinosaurs didn't eat to live. They lived to chew. They didn't snack. They demolished vegetation like a buffet had wronged their family. From dawn till dusk, they were on the move. Not in pursuit of love or validation, but of leaves, ferns, conifers, and whatever green dared to grow nearby. Break up food? They don't even have time. Sauropods didn't have time to be heartbroken. Their lives boiled down to two questions. Eat more. Always. But if they did get sad, who knows? Maybe a buddy didn't wag its tail in the morning. Their version of comfort was, should I stop eating? No. Eat more grass. Big body, still heartache. Have you ever heard people say, I eat to fill the hole in my heart? Maybe sauropods did too. Except their heart-shaped void was tiny compared to their colossal chests. The rest? All stomach. Their world was basically sequel. Sauception sua. If alive, then eat. Else collapse from hunger. A touch of healing, straight from the appetite. Feeling down? Tired from finishing a deadline just to get another meeting invite? Don't stress. At least you don't need 500 kilograms of greens a day to survive. And you can sleep knowing, won't starve tomorrow if you can't get roots delivered in a forest. Sauropods lived by the simplest formula. Eat, walk, breathe. Nothing more, nothing less. They weren't geniuses. They weren't show-offs. But they knew what was essential to survive, and they did it with consistency you'd envy. Rain or shine, eat. Tired or lost from the herd, eat. And no promise of tomorrow, still eating the next bush. Eat like tomorrow's greenery depends on it. The lesson here isn't eat more and you'll be strong. It's when life isn't easy, simplify to what you can control. You don't have to figure it all out. Just do something nurturing, whether that's eating grass or flan. And when someone asks, why are you eating so much? Raise your chin like a dignified Brachiosaurus and say, my ancestor was Diplodocus. I'm just upholding a legacy. So if you're stress eating in your pajamas, you're not broken. You're just channeling your inner dinosaur. Eat, rest, breed resilience. Don't apologize for taking up space in food and in life, because sauropods survived extinction-level events, and somehow so will you. Part 2: Green Growth of Life. The trees no longer want to be a backdrop. Trees during the Jurassic were basically Gen Z after a self-development course. Trees during the Jurassic period weren't just growing. They were having a full-blown personality glow-up. Imagine this. Conifers used to be modest little wallflowers, low to the ground, silent, just doing their photosynthesis and minding their own xylem. But suddenly, boom, Jurassic hits. And these trees come back like they just finished a 6-week personal transformation retreat in Bali. We're talking 30-meter tall natural skyscrapers, standing over the landscape like they just realized, why should I live in someone else's shadow when I can cast one? These weren't trees. These were introverts turned influencers, still emotionally deep, still sipping CO2 in silence, but now with the energy of, I'm not trying to go viral, I am the trend. If you squint hard enough, you can almost hear them saying, I'm not here to produce fruit, darling. I'm here to build legacy. They gave no flowers, no juicy gifts, just towering presence and a vibe that screamed, if you can't see my value, maybe you're not tall enough. Brutal. And yes, these were the plants that inspired entire future forests. They didn't need to shout, but every leaf was a mic drop. Araucarias, cycads, and their cousins weren't rushing to grow fast. They grew with intention. Slow, deliberate, majestic. The botanical version of, healing isn't linear, but my growth rings sure are. Let's be honest, these trees were more emotionally stable than most of us today. While mammals were still struggling with identity and lizards were out here auditioning for future dragon roles, these trees just stood tall, breathed deep, and built ecosystems. They didn't chase the sun. They invited it. If modern humans were like Jurassic trees, Instagram would be dead. No thirst traps, just thirst roots. No filters, just literal air purification. No hustle culture, just decades of patient upward growth, not giving a single chloroplast about quarterly results. Meanwhile, somewhere in the future, Karen is yelling at her fiddle leaf fig for not growing fast enough, while a 150-million-year-old conifer whispers through time, maybe if you watered it with your emotional maturity, it would thrive. Burn. Moral of the story? These trees weren't in a rush. And look who's still around. Some of them, like the Woolemi pine, literally ghosted the planet for 65 million years and popped back up in the 1990s like, hey, just needed a break from all the drama. If that's not the ultimate soft block, I don't know what is. So next time you're spiraling about life, career, or how your avocado plant hates you, just remember, some greatness takes time, like hundreds of millions of years, and sometimes saying nothing is the most iconic flex of all. 2 gymnosperms, the flowerless beings that still make the whole world gaze in awe. If you think flowers are the only way to get attention, then congratulations, you're basically an angiosperm. Too bad they didn't show up until 100 million years later. Back in the Jurassic, gymnosperms ruled the world. No flowers, no fruits, no drama. While angiosperms were still a future idea, gymnosperms had already hacked evolution. They didn't need petals to flirt or nectar to beg pollinators. Nope, just wind. One breeze was all it took, and their pollen would fly across the forest like, we don't have to meet. If the vibe's right, I'm already there. While ferns of the Permian were still gambling on water to reproduce, gymnosperms had moved on. They invented seeds, real ones, to protect their embryos like a prehistoric power move. It was the botanical equivalent of, I'm not risking my child's future on some swampy one-night stand. And while everyone else freaked out about climate change, volcanoes, or dinosaurs screaming down the valley, gymnosperms? Chill. Just slowly growing into giants. No hashtags, no trending sounds, no glow-ups, just roots deep in the ground, and trunks rising like they'd just taken a mindfulness course. They didn't crave attention. They just existed, and they thrived. You think they're emotionally numb? Nope, they just don't overshare. They don't need to post their trauma. They just keep growing. Meanwhile, humans still struggle to find the right person to have a baby with. Gymnosperms figured that out 290 million years ago. And you know what's funny? The world keeps crashing, but these plants keep standing. They don't push themselves into every ecosystem just to be seen. They grow where it makes sense. And when they do, they own the space. The more complicated something is, the easier it breaks. Gymnosperms? Minimalist to their very cells. And that's exactly why they've lasted through mass extinctions and dinosaur tantrums. So next time you feel like you're not being seen, remember the ancient giants that never bothered with flowers, but quietly conquered the earth anyway. 3 plants, but make it dreamy. You thought humans invented romance, overthinking, and emotional spirals? Please, plants in the Triassic era were already soft-launching their healing journey before your ancestors even grew opposable thumbs. The no cute boys, just consistent photosynthesis crew. After the Permian extinction wiped the evolutionary slate clean, Earth was like a dimly lit stage waiting for the next act. And who strutted out first through the fog machines of post-apocalypse? Naked seed plants. No floral gowns. No fruity accessories. Just showing up raw and unbothered. Like a Gen Z backpacking solo through Southeast Asia. Minimalist, mysterious, and somehow thriving on nothing but sunlight and vibes. Naked seeds, gymnosperms? They fly far and wide like that secret you told just one friend. Needle leaves? So water efficient they'd make even the most emotionally detached soft boy weep with admiration. A big, flexible woody trunks? The botanical version of been through some things, still standing energy. Basically, your emotionally resilient aunt who survived 3 divorces and a housing crisis and looks better every year. Ferns, the long-lifers with 0 drama. Jealous of that one friend who's effortlessly likable, never involved in drama, and always has good skin? Meet ferns. These leafy icons have been around since dinosaurs were TikTok-level trending. And guess what? Never got canceled. Not once. No flowers, no perfume-y tactics, no desperate thirst traps for bees. Ferns are the OG introverts. Low maintenance, deeply rooted in their values, quietly photosynthesizing in corners while everyone else burns out chasing attention. They don't ask for gifts. They don't demand likes. They just exist, gracefully, for hundreds of millions of years. Ginkgo, the grandmaster of soft power. Remember ginkgo biloba? That fan-leafed relic from your overpriced memory supplements? This living fossil has outlived every extinction event, casually watching empires rise and fall while dropping golden leaves like cryptic haikus. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't DM first. It just stands there, timeless, unbothered, and somehow always camera-ready. While humans are still out here writing dating books and begging the algorithm for validation, ginkgo just vibes in silence and lets people line up to take aesthetic fall photos under its branches. Icon behavior. So the next time you call plants boring, remember, they've seen dinosaurs rise and fall, survived asteroid strikes, climate meltdowns, ozone tantrums, and CO2 crises that would have sent most modern influencers straight into therapy. And yet, here they are, still alive, still growing, still better at boundaries than most of us. Plants may not talk, but they know you're only breathing because of them. 4. Leaves, nature's passive-aggressive climate editors. Let's be honest, plants were tired of Earth being a hot mess. Literally. Back in the Jurassic, the CO2 levels were spiking like someone had left the volcanoes on infinite mode, and the planet was starting to feel like one giant preheated oven. That's when the forests said, "Nope, not on our watch." So what did plants do? They whipped out their ultimate flex: leaves. Tiny green solar panels, soft and quiet like a yoga teacher, but with the power to rewrite the entire atmosphere. If that's not boss energy, I don't know what is. Each leaf, armed with chlorophyll, became a mini climate activist. No picket signs, no Instagram rants, just pure science. They inhaled carbon dioxide like the drama queens of the atmosphere, exhaled oxygen, you're welcome, and casually helped cool the planet so life could chill out a bit. Yes, leaves literally helped detox Earth. Take that, overpriced juice cleanses. Photosynthesis isn't just some boring high school chapter. It's the plot twist where plants become climate engineers. They take sunlight, water, and CO2, and bam, sugar, oxygen, and global stability. You think your 9 to 5 is hard? Try performing alchemy every time the sun shines. And guess what? These leafy warriors didn't just clean the air, they remodeled the whole vibe of Earth. Lower CO2 equals cooler climate equals finally a livable stage for the dinosaurs to strut in without overheating. It's like the plants said, "All right, boys, the lighting's fixed. Go break a leg." The best part? Trees didn't just help the planet, they did it passive-aggressively. No loud declarations, no awards ceremony, just standing there all majestic, absorbing carbon like, "We're not mad, just disappointed." Meanwhile, humans today are out here planting one tree and expecting a Nobel Peace Prize. Babe, Jurassic ferns were scrubbing megatons of CO2 while looking like overgrown green feather dusters. And let's not ignore the style upgrade. Leaves came in all shapes and sizes, turning Earth into a fashion runway of greens. From the flirty fronds of ferns to the thick needles of conifers. Function and flair? Plants walked so climate tech could run. Let's give it up for the OG influencers of climate control, not with hashtags, but with stomata. So the next time someone tells you, it's just a tree, kindly remind them that without leaves doing their silent photosynthetic hustle millions of years ago, none of us would be here complaining about the Wi-Fi. Leaves didn't just write the climate narrative. They edited it with sunlight and shade and just a hint of smug silence. Part 4 size isn't everything. The hunters who could solo a herd. 1. Not all that's big is badass. The team players of terror. If Jurassic had social media, Allosaurus would be admin of the page, hashtag meal prep with Allo, fresh prey, every damn day. Let's get one thing straight. In the Jurassic jungle, being big doesn't mean you rule the world. Sometimes it just means you're a walking buffet. Don't believe me? Ask a sauropod. They've got size, they've got necks longer than your existential crisis, and they've got absolutely zero defense when a gang of Allosaurus shows up like the Jurassic version of a motorcycle gang, minus the bikes, but with way more teeth. Because Allosaurus? Oh honey, that's your favorite main character energy right there. Not the biggest, not the fastest, not the most armored, but clever, organized, hungry, and always arriving at the worst possible moment if you're a herbivore trying to vibe in peace. Jurassic brains beat Jurassic biceps. Here's the truth. Allosaurus is the reason you don't skip the teamwork module in school. While the long-necked plant eaters were out there doing tree yoga and trying not to trip over their own shadows, Allosaurus was 1. Watching, 2. Waiting, 3. Whispering to the squad, "You flank left. I'll distract Big Neck over here." You know that guy in group projects who actually shows up and does the work? That's Allosaurus. The guy who doesn't show off on TikTok, doesn't deadlift 500 kilograms just for likes, but ends up getting the job done every single time. No need for drama, just strategy, speed, and a sixth sense for weakness. Meal prep, Jurassic Edition. Now imagine being a sauropod. You're tall, leafy, and just trying to munch your brunch in a peaceful fern grove. You think you're safe because you're bigger than a double-decker bus. Then, rustling in the bushes. Cue the Jurassic version of "Oh no, not again." Out leap the Allo Squad, like they're running a food truck. But you're the special of the day. And no, they don't go in one by one like amateurs. They swarm, they coordinate, and they absolutely do not care that you're 20 times their size. Because they've learned something that most humans still struggle with in their 30s. Being big doesn't mean being untouchable. Sometimes it just means being easier to find on Google Maps for predators. Emotionally intelligent predators? Yes, please. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, you're telling me these murder lizards were thoughtful? Not in the writes poetry under moonlight kind of way. But Allosaurus had a brain built for cooperation, not just chomping. They could likely read situations, read each other. They weren't just hunters, they were tactical predators like chess players with very sharp teeth. If T-Rex was a solo action movie star, Allosaurus was the entire ensemble cast of Ocean's 11. But instead of robbing a casino, they robbed you of your femur. And let's be honest, we'd still swipe right. Because who doesn't like a dinosaur with emotional range? Evolution's favorite beta test. Want to hear something wild? Some scientists believe Allosaurus might be an early version of what eventually led to birds. That's right, your friendly neighborhood pigeon could be carrying the ghost of a prehistoric group hunter in its tiny, fluttery soul. And that chicken nugget you microwaved last night? An evolutionary relative of a creature that used to orchestrate ambushes like a war general. So next time you laugh at a seagull stealing someone's fries, remember, it's not rude, it's ancestral instinct. Modern gym brothers versus ancient pack brothers. Let's draw a little comparison. In today's world, we worship muscle mass. Big equals strong equals respect, right? Enter Chad. Chad goes to the gym 7 days a week. Chad has traps that look like misplaced mountains. Chad eats chicken breast and boiled broccoli and nothing else. But Chad forgets leg day. Chad never shares his protein powder. And Chad couldn't organize a group hunt if his life depended on it. Meanwhile, Allosaurus doesn't need bulging biceps. It's lean, it's coordinated, it's got Jurassic street smarts. Chad might lift a tree. Allosaurus brings down the whole forest. If Allosaurus had a podcast, it would be called Survival, but make it sexy. Episode 1. How to flank a sauropod without breaking a sweat. Episode 2. Why going solo is for extinct losers. Episode 3. Meal prepping for the modern predator. Saving energy, maximizing impact. Special guest, Velociraptor, talking about small pack dynamics and mental health in the Cretaceous. And you think you've got problems? We say dinosaurs had it rough, but let's be real. Some of them had it figured out. They hunted together, slept under stars, never paid taxes, never had to explain to their parents why they're 35 and still single. And even when life threw a meteor at them, at least they didn't ghost each other or send "you up" texts at 2 a.m. Sometimes, being eaten by your squad was less painful than online dating. Healing thoughts from the Apex Squad. Here's the twist you didn't expect. Yes, Allosaurus was terrifying. Yes, it dismembered with precision. But it also thrived because it connected. It teaches us that survival is not about being the loudest, biggest, or most photogenic. It's about being in sync, adaptive, and willing to share the meal or the moment. There's something beautifully healing in that. Even if the moment is you gnawing on a Triceratops femur with your besties. Pack life isn't just ancient strategy. It's modern wisdom. Final mic drop before the meteor hits. So next time you feel small in a big world, or not loud enough in a room full of noise, remember Allosaurus. It wasn't the biggest. It didn't roar the loudest. Probably wouldn't go viral on TikTok. But it outthought, out-teamed, and outlasted many of its rivals. Sometimes the ones who quietly observe, plan, and strike when the moment's right are the ones who leave the deepest mark, even if it's in the form of bite marks on your Jurassic butt. 2. Ceratosaurus, that horn ain't for cuteness. If you think that little nose horn is some kind of Jurassic-era unicorn cosplay, look, it's got a baby horn. How cute. Then congratulations. You'd be the first one Ceratosaurus sends back to your ancestors the moment you get lost in the Jurassic woods. Because back in the time of dinosaurs, cuteness was a liability, and naivete was your one-way ticket to becoming someone's lunch. Let's set the scene. The Jurassic forest is damp. The air is thick with mist, pollen, and the stench of something that can only be described as a gym sock left inside a fossilized burrito. Out from the ferns creeps Ceratosaurus, the original red flag on 2 legs. He's got a horn on his nose, but spoiler alert, it's not for combat. It's for flair, for flirting, for passive-aggressively flexing in front of his ex when she walks by with a new Stegosaurus boyfriend. Ceratosaurus is the kind of guy who tells you he doesn't believe in labels, then cries when you won't call him your mate. Evolution gave him sharp teeth, a long tail, and vibes so toxic they probably contributed to minor extinction events. He hunts in ambush, not because it's more efficient, but because surprise attacking someone while they're emotionally vulnerable is his love language. He doesn't run up to his prey like a noble Allosaurus. No, he lurks, behind a log, waiting, and when a baby Camptosaurus wanders by, boom, emotional damage, also actual damage. You know that guy who borrows your charger and never gives it back? Ceratosaurus invented that energy. He'd wait until another predator cornered a meal, then leap out, scream something like, "Finders keepers," and steal the kill. Scientists call it kleptoparasitism. We call it being a chaotic, lazy mooch. His breath, absolutely criminal. Listen, it's not his fault toothbrushes weren't invented yet. But it is his fault that he chewed on rotting meat like it was an emotional support hobby. Fossils show he had long blade-like teeth with spaces in between, perfect for trapping chunks of half-digested tragedy. If you got within 3 meters of this dude, you either fainted or evolved gills just to filter the air. His hygiene? Worse than a bachelor pad during finals week. Liked wallowing in dead logs and skipping every available Jurassic spa day. Had a thing for rubbing his face in prey like it was aftershave. He once mistook a pile of dung for a mud bath and told everyone it was a natural scent enhancer. But somehow he thought he was hot, like aggressively confident, swag walking through the forest like he just dropped a mixtape. That little horn on his nose? He told the ladies it was a battle scar from fighting a T. Rex. T. Rex didn't even exist yet, but he didn't care about timelines. He cared about aesthetic. He had this one move. Sidle up next to a female Ceratosaurus, flick his tail and whisper, "Want to see my theropod alignment?" She'd roll her eyes so hard they nearly evolved into a different genus. He was all about the sneak attack, both in hunting and in romance. The kind of guy who sends you a fern bouquet at 3 a.m. and texts, "You up? Let's not forget the feet." Oh Lord, the feet. His feet smelled like they moonlighted as compost bins. The jungle floor avoided him. Scientists found fossilized footprints that literally repelled moss. The only reason smaller dinosaurs didn't trail behind him was because they didn't want to die of secondhand stank. He left scent trails so strong that some paleontologists think they may have doubled as territory markers and biological warfare. And yes, he probably peed in the same spot for weeks and blamed it on territorial behavior. His personality, an Instagram motivational quote with the soul of a used car salesman. Be the apex predator of your own destiny, he said, as he looted a half-eaten carcass from a hard-working Allosaurus. Told himself he was a lone wolf, then cried when the herd didn't invite him to brunch. Once got in a tail-slapping contest with a tree because he thought it was giving him attitude. Lost. And don't get us started on his diet. Ceratosaurus had a flexible menu. Fish, small dinosaurs, prehistoric regrets. He probably dipped raw meat in puddle water and called it sushi. Fossil records suggest he had long, flexible jaws that allowed for fast, opportunistic bites. Translation: he inhaled food the way some people inhale bad decisions. And after meals, did he clean up? Of course not. He wiped his face on ferns and told everyone he was reconnecting with nature. Romantic, only in the most terrifying sense. He would strut around with carcass goo still dripping from his chin, wink at a mate, and say, "Bet you've never seen someone decapitate a Dryosaurus in one bite, huh?" Seduced with raw meat gifts and stories that may or may not have been about him. Claimed he once outran a forest fire. Reality, he fell into a mud pit, forgot what he was doing, then bragged about it. Still, he had fans. Why? Because apparently some dinosaurs are into red flags the size of Utah. Maybe it was the bad boy charm. Maybe it was the way his scars told stories. Or maybe it was the fact that in a world full of well-behaved, dependable predators, Ceratosaurus just didn't care. And there's something oddly magnetic about someone who smells like ego and half-digested lunch. In evolutionary terms, Ceratosaurus was a bit of a dead end. He didn't become the star of the Cretaceous, but he did leave behind enough fossil drama to make him unforgettable. Because long before reality TV, there was Ceratosaurus, the narcissistic lizard king of the Jurassic, stomping through the undergrowth, exuding confidence, body odor, and questionable ethics. He didn't go extinct. He just reincarnated into that one guy at your gym who flexes in the mirror, skips leg day, and thinks deodorant is a government conspiracy. R.I.P. you chaotic, crusty legend. 3. Stegosaurus, a hardcore believer in inner beauty. Who says you have to be smart to be handsome? Stegosaurus strongly disagrees. Let's be real. If you brought Stegosaurus on a first date, you'd probably be confused the entire time. Here's the spiky tank of a dinosaur with a back lined like a medieval saw blade and a tail that looks like it moonlights as a wrecking ball. And yet, there's something off. Not scary off, just vibing in a different frequency off. Stego was, in all honesty, the dinosaur version of that guy who talks for an hour about energy crystals but forgets to wear deodorant. First, let's talk brains. Or rather, lack thereof. Stegosaurus had a brain roughly the size of a walnut, an actual walnut. A grape if we're being dramatic, which we are. And this wasn't even a particularly juicy grape. Just a dried up, slightly confused raisin floating in 5,000 kilograms of armored optimism. You'd think that would stop him from having an opinion on everything. Wrong. Stego was the original overthinker. Despite his microscopic brain, He strutted around Jurassic forests like he was Aristotle with tail spikes. Every rustling fern was a philosophical conundrum. Every butterfly flapping by, a metaphor. But here's the thing. Stegosaurus was dangerous. Like hospital trip dangerous. Those tail spikes? 4 of them. Each longer than your average Gen Z's attention span and sharper than a passive-aggressive group chat message. The tail itself was a massive whip, and he knew how to use it. He might be slow in the head, but his rear end could write poetry in violence. Now let's talk looks. On Tinder, Stego would have only one picture. A blurry forest selfie with the caption, sapiosexual, deep thinker, body of a god, brain of a minimalist. The reality? He looked like a walking salad bar wearing battle armor. Those plates on his back weren't just for show. They helped regulate body temperature, like literally a walking air conditioning system. But of course, he thought they made him irresistible. He'd strut past a group of sauropods and be like, "Yeah, you know you're into the plates." Meanwhile, the other dinosaurs were like, "Bro, you've got spinach in your teeth and you haven't bathed since the Pliensbachian." Let's not even talk about his hygiene. Stego was the kind of guy who claimed to be earthy, but was really just muddy. He'd roll in swamp water, proudly declare himself one with nature, and then sit in the sun until he smelled like a compost bin after leg day. And don't get us started on the tail situation. Ever met someone who knows they're dangerous and uses it to win arguments? Stego was that friend. You say, "Hey man, maybe don't chew with your mouth open," and suddenly whack, a tail spike lands inches from your face. Not because he's angry, just because he wants to remind you he might be a softie inside, but he can still end your bloodline. And yet, he was oddly lovable. The kind of dinosaur who thinks a second date means meeting your parents. The type to gift you a rock because it spoke to his soul. A fan of interpretive dance, even if every move was just him swinging his tail and hoping nobody got decapitated. Stego wasn't cool. He was the dinosaur equivalent of a high school band kid with intense eye contact and a love for slam poetry. But he was real. He wore his heart on his plates, thought his spikes made him deep, believed that being misunderstood was just part of being enlightened. And look, we've all been there. We've all had our Stegosaurus phase, posting long quotes on Instagram stories, wearing scarves in summer, saying, "I'm just vibing with the universe right now while dodging rent." So here's to Stego, the slow-thinking, tail-whipping, self-loving herbivore with a passion for inner peace and outer armor. He reminds us that even if your brain is the size of a walnut, you can still make a point. Literally, especially if it's on the end of your tail. Fun facts that make Stegosaurus even weirder. Despite being massive, up to 9 meters long, Stegosaurus likely had one of the lowest brain-to-body ratios of any dinosaur. Basically, all brawn, no bandwidth. Its tail spikes, called the Thagomizer, yes, named after a Gary Larson comic, were deadly. They weren't just for show. Some Allosaurus fossils show damage consistent with stegotail attacks. So yes, this peaceful salad muncher had anger management options. The back plates might have been for thermoregulation, display, or even self-defense. They weren't armored like the tail, though, so while they looked cool, they were about as useful in a fight as a decorative wall fan. The Stegosaurus walked on all fours with short front legs and long back legs, kind of like a badly designed roller cart. It moved slow, ate plants, and kept the vibes earthy. If Stegosaurus lived today, he'd be that guy in your friend group who hosts potlucks and insists everything be organic. Drives a bike with a bamboo water bottle. refers to his dog as his emotional partner, definitely has a skincare routine that involves moonlight, but also, he's the guy who steps in when your ex shows up at a party uninvited. One swing of the tail, boom, problem solved. Says it was a peaceful intervention. And while he might not win any spelling bees or remember your birthday, he'd never ghost you. Because when Stegosaurus loves, he loves with his whole, tiny, walnut-shaped heart. And honestly, that counts for something. Even if he still smells like pond. Stegosaurus was the OG soft boy, the walking contradiction. Brain small, heart big. He reminds us that you don't need to be a genius to stand out. Just own your weird, swing your tail with confidence, and don't let anyone tell you your plates aren't sexy. Also, maybe shower. The swamp look only works for so long. For how not to die. Get a squad or get eaten. Let's be honest. If you lived in the Jurassic, survival wasn't about being the strongest, the smartest, or even the fastest. It was about not being the slowest one in your friend group. That's it. That's the golden rule of dinosaur self-defense. So while some lone wolves or lone lizards strutted around flexing their horns, tails, or 10-10 biceps, others, let's call them the introverted realists of the Mesozoic, knew the truth. You don't need muscles if you've got a good group chat. Let's take a moment to talk about herding behavior, the prehistoric version of safety in numbers, or as the cool sauropods used to say, teamwork makes you not get eaten. The herd, where friendship is literally life or death. The idea of forming a squad didn't start with humans. Long before your ancestors were inventing brunch or team-building retreats at fake obstacle courses, the dinosaurs were already experts at it. Stegosaurus moved in clumps. Hadrosaurs, basically a rolling street parade. Small ornithopods, think school kids crossing the road in formation, except the penalty for breaking rank was getting turned into a meat popsicle by a passing Allosaurus. This wasn't just let's hang because I'm lonely behavior. This was full-blown evolutionary insurance. The benefits were fire. A more eyes equals early warning system. The more eyes in your squad, the faster someone screams, run! The more bodies equals less chance it's you that gets eaten. We call this dilution effect. You call it better him than me. Group chaos equals harder to chase. Ever tried catching one chicken? Now try 20 all at once while they're screaming and pooping. Even baby dinos, those little evolutionary meatballs, were better off in herds. Especially if mom and dad were the size of minivans and had tails that could kill you in 4 different directions. Nature's daycare was brutal. No nannies, just vibes and trauma. Modern parallel. Ever left the club alone at 2 a.m.? Exactly. See, modern humans think they invented group survival tactics. You didn't. You just rebranded ancient survival strategies and gave them trendy names. A group chats equals danger alerts. Partying in packs equals protection. Office alliances equals corporate camouflage. And don't even get us started on the walk to the bathroom together rule. Jurassic creatures did that too. Only their version was go to the watering hole together or get eaten by something with too many teeth and not enough chill. Let's be honest, even now, the lone wolf aesthetic mostly works until reality hits. You can be a lone wolf until the bigger wolf shows up. But wait, how did they even know to form groups? Now here's where the evolution nerds come in. Many herbivorous dinosaurs evolved complex social behaviors through natural selection. Why? Because those who hung out together were more likely to pass on their genes. If you got eaten, well, your DNA didn't RSVP to the future. So traits like recognizing your buddies, staying close in migration, caring for your young, moving like synchronized swimmers on steroids, became more common. And honestly, if you were a predator like a Ceratosaurus, you hated group herbivores, because that meant fewer easy kills, more tail whipping, and a higher chance of getting stomped to death by 10 angry moms. Hunting a herd was like trying to mug a biker gang when you forgot your weapon and your gym membership. The cost of being a solo main character. Let's look at the flip side. What happened to dinosaurs who didn't get the memo? Oh, you're edgy? You want to be mysterious and walk alone through the ferns? Cool. Until you realize every footstep could be your last. No friends equals no warning. No backup equals no defense. No squad equals no one to tell your tragic death story in the group chat. Sure, maybe once in a while, a solo ankylosaur could survive just by being basically a tank with a tail. But most others, gone, faded, became fossil snacks. It's the evolutionary version of being too cool to ask for help, and then realizing too late that the jungle doesn't care about your ego. Relatable dino memes if they had phones. Imagine if dinosaurs had Instagram stories. You'd see posts like, a velociraptor selfie, out with the pack. If you're slow, that's on you. Stegosaurus post, my besties and I walking past danger like, lonely Ceratosaurus story, hunting solo again. Why does nobody reply to my roars? Some dinos were born for the spotlight, but others just wanted to survive long enough to raise their babies and complain about climate change. And the babies, oh Lord, the babies. Did we mention how fragile baby dinos were? If you were a tiny hatchling, your best defense wasn't claws or teeth. It was having 100 cousins screaming at the same time so predators didn't know who to bite first. Some species may have even shared parenting roles, a prehistoric version of the neighborhood aunties who all raise each other's kids. Community care equals survival hack. Now imagine you, a baby hadrosaur, in the middle of a migrating herd, safe under the stomping feet of your parents and dozens of other adults. You don't even need to know how to run yet. You just need to be in the middle of the chaos like a Gen Z kid at a concert, safe in the crowd, confused by everything, but alive. Real-life Jurassic group projects. Let's recap a few examples. Camarasaurus fossils have been found in clusters, indicating they likely moved in herds. Think gentle giants with social anxiety. Maiasaura literally means good mother lizard. Fossil sites show evidence of nesting colonies. These moms raised their babies in suburban cul-de-sac vibes, but with more screams. Deguanodon, found in mass graves, possibly from floods hitting large herds. Sad for them, but cool for us because we get to reconstruct entire friend groups that got yeeted together. Even Rex juveniles may have hung out in groups. Imagine that teenage clique. Big teeth, mood swings, and questionable hunting strategies. So yeah, group living was not some fluffy friendship ideal, it was an evolutionary strategy with receipts. Evolution never stops. Fast forward 150 million years, and guess what? We still do it. Not because we're soft, but because the world is wild and humans are still squishy meat bags with anxiety. The predators just changed. From Allosaurus to debt. From Ceratosaurus to toxic workplaces. From giant flying reptiles to TikTok drama and credit scores. And the tools of survival, emotional support groups, therapy memes, found family, co-working spaces with free Wi-Fi and mediocre coffee. Same game, new skins. Don't try to be a lone T. Rex, if you're secretly a scared little hadrosaur, form your herd, answer your group chat, say yes to brunch, and for the love of evolution, Don't be the slowest one when danger comes. Because some ancient rules, they never go extinct. Part 5. When the sky begins to dream, and the birds start opening TikTok accounts. 1. When the sky started to dream. Archaeopteryx, the beta bird who believed, once upon a prehistoric time, before TikTok trends, before existential dread, before coffee, the sky was off limits. Not because it had fences, not because of restricted airspace or ancient dinosaur flight controllers. No, the real reason, creatures on land were, quite frankly, heavy-bottomed. Yep, too much tail, too much gut, and way too much drama to even think about lifting off the ground. Picture this, a round-bellied dinosaur, let's call him Gary, standing under a tree, squinting up at the clouds. He lets out a sigh, not a majestic one, more like the sigh of a middle manager staring at a 57-tab spreadsheet with 12 minutes left until the weekend. Flying? Nah, bro. We were built to stomp, to thunder, to shake the forest floor with every step like an overconfident drumline. Cue dramatic foot thudding. Boom, boom, boom. But somewhere nearby, someone dares to dream. Not a philosopher, not an influencer, just a little creature with claws, feathers, and what we now lovingly call beta software. Meet Archaeopteryx, part dinosaur, part bird, all confusion. The first one who looked at the sky and said, "Let's give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen?" Other than falling, of course. The beta bird has entered the chat. Now let's get one thing clear. Archaeopteryx was not your sleek, majestic falcon of today. No, this pioneer looked like a science fair project that got too ambitious halfway through. Imagine feathers, but not in a cute, Instagrammable way. More like, I tried gluing a pigeon to a lizard. Wings that could kind of fly but mostly flail, clawed hands on the wings, because evolution couldn't decide what to do yet. A full set of teeth in a bird. For reasons? Basically, Archaeopteryx was the early access version of flight. Exciting, innovative, buggy as hell. It could jump, flap, flutter, and scream internally all at once. The kind of flyer that gets off the ground and then immediately regrets every decision that led to that point. Woohoo! I'm fly, OHNO tree, and you know what? That's kind of beautiful, because while all the big kids were stomping around like sumo wrestlers in a mosh pit, this feathery weirdo was out here beta testing gravity. Evolution's hot mess express. Let's talk design. If you handed the blueprints of Archaeopteryx to a modern engineer, they'd stare at it like a cursed IKEA manual. Wait, so it's got bird bones? But teeth? Claws? And is that a tail longer than its body? Yeah. That tail was a full commitment. A bony drag chute that said, I want to fly, but also I want to cosplay a tiny velociraptor. Internally, things were equally weird. A hollow bones, great for flying, also great for snapping like dry spaghetti if you land wrong. Two-direction lungs, yes, Archaeopteryx had fancy bird-like lungs that allowed air to flow in both directions. Translation, continuous breathing, no breaks, no excuses. Breathe in, breathe out, repeat until extinction. A massive chest muscles are not for bench pressing, but for flapping hard enough to avoid face-planting into ferns. Basically, lightweight, well-ventilated, and cardio-trained. Like if CrossFit invented a chicken. Meanwhile, on land, the dinosaur scoffed, while Archaeopteryx was flapping around like a caffeinated paper airplane. Her bigger cousins were not impressed. Picture a T, Rex rolling its tiny eyes, if it could reach them, and muttering, "Look at this feathery drama queen. What's wrong with walking like a normal apex predator?" Or a triceratops sipping Dino tea. She really said, "Upward mobility, huh?" But Archaeopteryx didn't care. She wasn't here to please the haters. She was here to experiment, fail, and then try again, over and over, just like a startup founder, except with fewer pitch decks and more screeching. The struggle was real, but so was the progress. Early flight wasn't graceful. It wasn't even convenient. Wings weren't optimized. Landings were 80% crash, 20% miracle. Every flight was a gamble between slightly elevated success and splat. But still, she kept going. Each awkward flutter was a line of code in the software of evolution. Each missed branch was a lesson in aerodynamics. Every painful belly flop into a shrub was a motivational poster in the making. Fall 7 times, scream 8, flap again. Modern birds owe her a favor and probably a therapy session. Look at today's birds. Majestic hawks, elegant cranes, even that one annoying seagull that stole your fries. They've all got clean flight mechanics, smooth feathers, precision aerodynamics. And none of that would exist if our girl Archaeopteryx hadn't face-planted through evolution first. She was the one who said, "Maybe I'll try wings." She was the one who literally put skin and feathers in the game. So the next time a pigeon does a perfect landing on a power line or a falcon slices through the sky like a jet engine, just remember, they're standing on the shaky, flappy shoulders of a prehistoric mess with too much tail and a dream. A love letter to the first flyers. There's something kind of poetic about it, isn't there? The idea that the sky was once a forbidden zone, and the first to challenge it wasn't a superhero or a divine being, but a funky-looking, confused little creature just trying something new. Not because it knew it would succeed, but because it simply wondered, what if I didn't stay on the ground? That's it. That's the whole vibe. Archaeopteryx didn't have TikTok to go viral. No drones, no Red Bull sponsorships, no cameras catching her glorious failures. Just wind, feathers, and the most chaotic determination in history. In the end, she didn't soar, but she rose. And maybe that's the point. She didn't invent supersonic flight. She wasn't the apex of anything, but she dared. She flapped, she glitched, and she passed the dream on. To future birds, to bats, to bees, to every creature that ever looked up and thought, maybe, just maybe, the sky is not the limit. It's the invitation. The moral of the prehistoric story? Even if you've got claws in weird places, a tail too long, and zero idea what you're doing, if you're trying, you're flying. And who knows, maybe someday, someone will look back and call you the first of your kind. 2. The Pterosaur Squad. Dragon Core. Fish Diet. Pterosaurs. Cosplaying dragons, but just eating fish. Long before dragons breathed fire in fantasy novels, there were pterosaurs. Massive wingspans? Check. Pointy snouts? Check. Vibes of I own the sky? Double check. Except they didn't breathe fire. And instead of terrorizing castles, they mostly terrorized sushi buffets. Let's set the scene. We're in the late Triassic. The world is hot. The continents are still in a long-distance relationship, and life is experimenting like it's in its freshman year of college. One particularly bold group of reptiles looks up at the sky and goes, gravity? Never heard of her. They didn't walk. They didn't swim. They launched. Pterosaurs became the first vertebrates to figure out powered flight, millions of years before birds even considered flapping a wing. But don't get it twisted. These were not birds. They weren't dinosaurs either. Yeah, sorry to burst your Jurassic Park bubble. They were their own thing, evolutionary freelancers. Imagine a weird cousin who shows up to family dinner dressed like a dragon, crashes the buffet, then leaves without saying goodbye. That's a pterosaur. Hang gliders from the depths of time. Let's talk about that look. If Mother Nature had a fashion week, pterosaurs would walk the runway in bones, leather, and aerodynamic flair. Their wings were basically giant hands. No, seriously, one finger just got way too ambitious. The fourth digit extended into a 10-foot lance, supporting a wing membrane that stretched to their ankles. Stylish? Sure. Practical? Debatable. Some of them rocked crests that looked like nature gave up halfway through a doodle. Brightly colored headgear? Yes. Functional purpose? Maybe for attracting mates. Or just because evolution sometimes hits randomize. But don't be fooled by the dragon cosplay. These were the aerial equivalents of anxious foodies. By day, sky kings, gracefully soaring over coastlines, scanning the waves like airborne influencers on the hunt for the perfect brunch fish. By night, back to the cave. No fire breathing, no treasure hoarding, just fish burps and the eternal struggle of folding those massive wings to sleep. What pterosaurs thought they looked like versus reality. What they imagined. Majestic sky overlords. Elegant, unstoppable, divine beings floating in eternal glory. Paleontology has entered the chat. You look like a leathery kite having a mid-air panic attack. Some pterosaurs had wingspans the size of fighter jets, 12 meters or more, while others were the size of pigeons. But size didn't matter, because no matter how big or small, every pterosaur had one job. Find fish, look cool, try not to crash into cliffs. Pterosaur personalities, because yes, we're doing that. Let's introduce a few of the gang. Dimorphodon, the awkward early model. Big head, short wings, unsure of its life choices. It flapped a lot and probably wheezed like a stressed-out dad at a trampoline park. Rhamphorhynchus, the goth teen of the group. Long tail, sharp teeth, hung out by lakes and listened to sad prehistoric emo music. Pteranodon, the one that finally got famous. No teeth, just vibes, massive wings, and a head crest that screamed, "I peaked in college." Quetzalcoatlus, the final boss. As tall as a giraffe, wings wider than a small plane, and an attitude of, "I could eat your dog, but I won't because I'm vegan today." All of them shared the same goal. Not die horribly while trying to fly, flirt, and feed. Evolution's experimental phase. Now here's the kicker. Pterosaurs didn't get flying right overnight. It took them millions of years of evolution, trial and error, and probably more than a few faceplants off cliffs. Their bones were hollow, light as a broken promise. Their muscles were finely tuned engines. Their lungs, probably as efficient as modern birds, meaning they could power through the skies like caffeinated drones. They even had a pycnofiber coat, think fuzzy protofeathers. Not quite feathers, not quite fur. More like evolution went, let's see what happens if we throw in some fuzz. This helped with temperature regulation. Because when you're cruising at altitudes above ancient oceans, you don't want to catch a chill. No one looks majestic with goosebumps. But wait, why aren't they around anymore? Ah, the classic prehistoric plot twist. Extinction. Despite being the Beyoncé of the skies for over 150 million years, pterosaurs didn't make it past the Cretaceous afterparty. That big asteroid said nope, and they vanished like your New Year's resolutions by February. Why? Probably because their eggs were soft and delicate, great for stealthy nesting, bad for surviving mass extinction chaos. Plus, once birds showed up with their flashy feathers and social media-ready chirps, the competition got real. Imagine being a pterosaur watching a parrot sing Despacito. You'd give up too. So, what did they leave behind? Besides fossilized drama? Inspiration. Today's aircraft engineers still study their flight mechanics. Artists draw them in every fantasy series ever. And you, dear reader, now know they were more than background extras in dino movies. They were icons. Skydiving, fish chasing, windsurfing icons. Final thoughts from the pterosaur group chat. Dimorphodon. Bro. Remember when we all thought wings were weird? Pteranodon. Still no teeth, still no problems. Quetzalcoatlus. I once mistook a T. Rex for a runway model. Long story. Rhamphorhynchus. Life was better when we hung out near lagoons and judged fish. All gone, but forever fabulous. If pterosaurs had Instagram bios. Sky's the limit, literally. Professional glider, fish connoisseur, drama queen, first to fly, last to ghost. Wingspan bigger than your ego. I don't breathe fire, I breathe fashion. And finally, next time you look up at the sky and see a bird or a plane or a weird guy in a wingsuit, spare a thought for the OGs. The ones who looked at the sky and said, yeah, I think I'll go up there, and then actually did. With wings made of stretched fingers, fragile bones, and the kind of reckless confidence that only a creature with no Wi-Fi and zero taxes could have. Pterosaurs. The dragon wannabes who changed the sky forever. And yes, they still had to go back to their caves every night, because even sky kings need to sleep. 3 birds can fly and dinosaurs are still jealous. Let's be honest here. Nobody saw birds coming. Not evolution. Not the dinosaurs. Not even the birds themselves. One minute they were just a bunch of fluff-covered tree hoppers, the prehistoric equivalent of those kids in school who wore 5 sweaters, had asthma, and didn't talk to anyone. Next minute, they're dominating the skies, starring in nature documentaries, and dancing on TikTok to remixed bird calls. And dinosaurs, let's just say, they were not clapping. It all started with a bitter breakup. So here's the tea: birds are technically dinosaurs. Yeah, I know. But like that one cousin who went vegan, does yoga now, and insists they're not really related to your messy family anymore. Birds took one look at their tea, Rex ancestors, and went, ugh, that's not me. I'm elevated. And then they literally elevated themselves into the air. While most dinosaurs were too busy flexing their teeth and pretending bigger arms weren't a thing, some sneaky little feathered rebels started evolving wings. Not the giant dramatic "I'm a dragon" type like the pterosaurs, who, by the way, were just cosplay lizards who thought flying made them superior. More on them later. Nah, these bird dinosaurs went subtle, smart, stylish. They traded size for agility, muscle for feathers, roaring for tweeting. Okay, the tweeting would take another 100 million years, but still. Lightweight was an insult until it wasn't. Let's talk evolutionary flexes. Dinosaurs used to laugh at early birds. Literally. You weigh what? Half a watermelon? Cute. Nice wings. Bet they work great. Falling off cliffs. Let me know when you grow a real tail. But little did those prehistoric gym bros know, being light was the new heavy. Birds figured out how to hollow their bones like influencers hollow their personalities, so they could fly higher, longer, and with less effort. Their metabolism went into overdrive. Their lungs turned into overachievers. And their feathers? Chef's kiss. A literal biological multi-tool. Warmth, flight, flirting. Honestly, feathers did everything but pay taxes. And the other dinos? They were still stomping around with the grace of a malfunctioning forklift. Small brain energy? Please, birds didn't just get light. They got smart, like suspiciously smart. Crows can recognize human faces. Parrots have vocabularies better than your ex. Pigeons navigate better than your dad on a road trip. And magpies? They hold grudges so well they could teach masterclasses in Petty 101. Meanwhile, dinosaurs, bless them, still thought if it moves, bite it was a viable life strategy. Even when that it was a rock or a volcano. Birds, on the other hand, invented problem solving. They evolved parental care strategies, nest building architecture, social intelligence, and in their spare time, they probably judged every other animal silently from the trees. Breakfast royalty, the egg takeover. Dinosaurs laid eggs. Birds perfected them, while a T-Rex egg was a glorified rock with goop inside. Birds turned eggs into design statements. Perfectly shaped, ultra-light, color-coded, shock-absorbing, and most importantly, delicious. Yes, humans would one day make omelets out of their future descendants, but that's a different roast entirely. Point is, birds made laying eggs a lifestyle. Nest on a cliff? No problem. Camouflage in sand? Nailed it. Hang your home upside down from a tree using only your beak and spite? Done. And they did it all while wearing fashion-forward feathers. Meanwhile, dinosaurs were still out here squatting in the mud yelling "Aradoubler." Embarrassing. Dinosaurs were not okay. We don't talk about this enough, but when birds started taking over the skies, some dinosaurs went full passive-aggressive. Some evolved wings too, but forgot how to fly. Others just got weirder. Think peacocks, but cursed. And then there were the haters. The grounded dinos who threw side-eye from under ferns. If dinosaurs had Twitter, it would have been chaos. Birds aren't real flyers. More like feathered mosquitoes. Back in my day, you needed claws to be cool. Evolution is a scam, and I'm suing. Birds, meanwhile, were too busy dive-bombing lakes for fish and inventing monogamy. Or at least pretending to. The ultimate plot twist. And then, boom. Literally. Meteor hits. Sky goes dark. Fireworks. Climate collapse. Apocalypse party. Dinosaurs gone. Birds? Still here. Turns out all those lightweight, dainty, not scary features made them survivors. They were small enough to hide. Flexible enough to adapt. Smart enough to not stare at the sky thinking, "Oh, shiny rock." Evolution didn't reward the biggest, loudest, or most dramatic. It rewarded the feathered nerds who kept their heads down and their wings ready. Honestly, it's giving revenge arc. Modern birds. Living the legacy and the drama. Now, birds are everywhere. There are 10,000 plus species and counting. That's more than mammals, reptiles, and your ex's red flags combined. They sing better than your Spotify playlist, fly longer than your phone battery, and have mating dances that would get millions of views on TikTok. But despite all this, birds are still kind of insecure. Ever seen a goose chase a child for no reason? That's ancestral trauma. Ever watch pigeons fight over breadcrumbs like it's Bitcoin? That's unresolved cousin rivalry. They've made it, but they haven't forgotten where they came from, or who doubted them. And somewhere in their tiny, high-efficiency brains, they still hear that one T. Rex snorting, "Flying? You'll never make it." Oh honey, they did, and they've been rubbing it in ever since. Final thought. Petty, pretty, and powerful. Birds are living proof that evolution doesn't reward the loudest roar or the biggest bite. It rewards those who adapt fast, think smarter, and quietly outlive everyone else. So next time you see a sparrow hopping across the pavement like it owns the world, it does. And if you listen closely, you might just hear it chirp. This one's for the haters. For your ancestors were birds learning to fly, and you can't even wash your dishes. Let's just start with the basics, shall we? You, sitting in your unmade bed at 2 a.m., scrolling through TikTok, procrastinating on that one task you were supposed to do 3 weeks ago. Half-eaten snack on your pillow. That mug? It's been rinsed by hope alone. You're wearing yesterday's shirt, and no one knows how long it's been since your feet last touched soap. Now, rewind the clock. Millions of years ago, your great-great-great, add 100 million greats. Grandparents were tiny feathered rebels, literally throwing themselves off trees and cliffs to figure out how wings work. Trial and error style. No manual, no YouTube tutorial. Just vibes and gravity. Some of them died. A lot of them looked like flying hamsters, but they kept going. And what did they get in return? You sitting there binge-watching a series called 10 Ways to Not Be Lazy while using your laptop as a dinner plate. Let's take a deep breath together. Birds didn't die for this. Back in the Mesozoic era, being small, warm-blooded, and feathered wasn't a personality. It was a death sentence. You had to constantly outrun giant reptiles with teeth longer than your future. Every second was like a Squid Game episode, but with fewer rules and more teeth. But those early birds, they got smart, they got sneaky, they got airborne. While dinosaurs were busy stomping around like they owned the place, birds were like, "Excuse me, we invented Uber Air." They got lighter, developed hollow bones. Some even grew asymmetrical feathers, just so they could control air like a Marvel character. Meanwhile, modern you struggles with the concept of reply all in email, a legacy of flight, and you can't even commit to brushing twice a day? Birds learned to compress their bones so they could stay light. You compress your spine from bad posture and endless gaming chairs. Birds evolved air sacs so they could breathe efficiently. You get out of breath walking up one flight of stairs while holding bubble tea. And don't even get us started on migration. Birds cross continents every year with no maps, no snacks, and definitely no emotional support playlists. Meanwhile, you get anxiety when Google Maps says rerouting. They fly across oceans, through storms, while you cancel gym because the clouds look kind of moody today. Let's talk hygiene, or lack thereof. Birds are meticulous about cleaning. You ever seen a bird preen? It's like a spa day with feathers. They realign each quill, fix their style, apply waterproofing, literally flexing evolution through skincare. Meanwhile, some of y'all out here thinking a spritz of body spray is the same as showering. Spoiler, it's not. Your ancestors fought tooth and claw and wing to survive. You can't even replace your toothbrush after 6 months. They escaped extinction. You can't escape your laundry pile. Dinosaurs were the drama, birds were the comeback. Here's the real tea: birds are the last living dinosaurs. They didn't replace the dinosaurs, they outlived them. While the T. Rex got canceled by a space rock, The birds were like, "Not my problem," and flew away. That's like surviving a meteor apocalypse with no bunker, just vibes and feathers. And while dinosaurs roared and flexed, birds got smart, subtle, strategic. They didn't need to be big. They just needed to exist longer. It's kind of like that one quiet coworker who doesn't talk much but suddenly becomes your manager. Take notes, and you still gossip like a Cretaceous hen. Birds have complex communication systems. Some sing, some dance, some do full-on skywriting. They use tone, rhythm, pitch, posture, all for survival, mating, territory. You, still trying to send shady subtweets to your ex, gossiping in the bathroom about your boss, creating entire conspiracy theories about who stole your yogurt. They evolved song. You evolved group chats for trash talk. Birds adapted to climate. You complain when Wi-Fi lags. Let's be real. The Earth changed a lot after the dinosaur extinction. But birds? They adapted. Changed beaks. Changed diets. Found new forests, lakes, cities. Meanwhile, if your air conditioner breaks for 10 minutes, you threaten to move to Canada. You're the end product of millions of years of survival. No pressure. So the next time you want to skip washing your hands because they don't look that dirty, just remember, your ancestors literally invented flight by launching themselves off branches and hoping for the best. You're sitting there arguing with a barista about almond milk foam. Evolution didn't go through 150 million years of research and development for you to keep your camera off in Zoom meetings because you look like a potato. They dodged extinction. You dodge phone calls. They fought gravity. You fight the urge to shower. But hey, there's hope. Here's the thing. Evolution didn't make you perfect. It just made you possible. Birds are still flying. You're still learning. And maybe, just maybe, the spirit of those feathery daredevils still lives in you. Not in your hygiene, not in your posture, but in that tiny, reckless part of you that sometimes tries, even when you're tired. When you say, screw it and actually wash your dishes. When you drink water instead of energy drink. When you go outside and look at the sky just for a second. That's flight, baby. Kind of. Almost. Okay, not really. But it's a start. Conclusion. Earth was stable for 56 million years. Then it collapsed again. A summary of the entire Jurassic period. A time of false stability before a greater shock. A fake peace era. Jurassic is basically your hot ex with debt. Imagine Earth during the Jurassic period as that ridiculously attractive ex. You know, the one, charming, smells like adventure, gives flowers unprompted, but low-key dodging debt collectors and emotionally unavailable since 201 million BC. On the surface, peaceful, lush, full of green forests, blue skies, and dinosaur bros living their best gym life. Underneath, the planet's basically holding its breath, pretending it's fine while continental plates play Jenga. Volcanoes are passive-aggressively steaming, and climate shifts are already gossiping about future chaos. Flashback. The end of the Triassic was an extinction-level oopsie, like when the group chat explodes and everyone leaves except one dude who refuses to change the name. Earth had a meltdown, literally. So now, Jurassic is the vibe reset. Cue the glow-up montage. Tiny fish evolve into apex predators with teeth like steak knives. Little reptiles hiding under bushes? They're now stomping around like influencers at Coachella, demanding attention and eating everyone smaller than them. Birds? They're out here figuring out how to not fall to their deaths every time they jump off a tree. Imagine freshmen at the gym, flapping, flailing, failing, but still posting thirst traps like, Day 1, Let's go. The Earth is healing, but like, in a very suspicious don't jinx it way. This isn't balance. It's buffering. Everyone's pretending the vibes are immaculate while extinction anxiety quietly marinates in the background. Basically, Jurassic Earth equals new era, who dis? But also Jurassic Earth equals I'm fine, followed by a mental breakdown 56 million years later. So before we get to the flying reptiles, wannabe chickens, and drama queens with teeth the size of smartphones, just remember, peace in the Jurassic wasn't real peace. It was the kind of calm you get after sending a risky text and pretending to meditate while waiting for the reply. Next up, Jim Bros with Tails, aka the dinosaurs who said, "Screw cardio, let's just grow thighs like tree trunks." Jurassic Jim Brothers, dinosaurs who skipped brain day. Welcome to the Jurassic Gym, where the membership fee is survival and the squat racks are occupied by literal land tanks with tiny IQs but massive quads. Enter the sauropods, the OG Jim Bros of the Mesozoic. You've got guys like Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, and Apatosaurus walking around like, does this neck make me look majestic? Bro, you are the neck. You have more cervical vertebrae than brain cells. These dudes are 30+ meters long, built like walking skyscrapers, and still somehow thought it was a good idea to hang out in herds like a prehistoric flash mob. Why? Safety in numbers. Or maybe they were just too thick to fit through the forest alone. But here's the plot twist. Despite the muscles, the vibes were chill. Sauropods weren't hunting. They were vibing. Just walking around, tail swinging, eating every fern in sight like an unstoppable salad vacuum. Basically the vegan influencers of their time, except instead of yoga and green smoothies, it was, I ate an entire forest and still feel peckish. Now contrast that with the theropods, aka the Meat Brothers. These are the dudes who only do upper body workouts and say things like, protein is life. You've got Allosaurus, strutting through the Jurassic like the lead singer of a death metal band. Teeth always out, eyeliner made of murder. He's not the biggest guy, but he has serious main character syndrome and a bite force to back it up. Meanwhile, the Ceratosaurus is like the guy who shows up late to the party wearing too much cologne and saying, I was underrated in high school. He's got horns, attitude, and zero chill. His Tinder profile says carnivore 100%, no vegans please. But none of them were quite ready for the real kings in the making, the Coelurosaurs. These small, fluffy weirdos were still figuring themselves out. Think of them as theater kids who later become billionaires. No one took them seriously yet. They were fast, quirky, probably covered in proto-feathers, and whispered things like, evolution is coming. Meanwhile, the herbivores were just trying not to die. You had Stegosaurus walking around with a walnut-sized brain and giant back plates that screamed, please don't eat me. I'm already emotionally unstable. These guys were built like armored taxis, slow, awkward, but somehow still iconic. The whole Jurassic landscape was basically Planet Fitness. Dinosaur Edition, no judgment, just gains. But instead of motivational posters, the walls were covered in volcano ash and the occasional scream from someone getting surprise bited by a passing Allosaurus. Moral of the story? If you had a long neck, huge thighs, or a mouth full of daggers, you were doing great. Intelligence was optional. Drama was guaranteed. Pterosaurs, the Sky Brothers who thought they were birds but flew like drunk uncles. Before birds were flexing their feathers on Instagram, we had pterosaurs, the original winged weirdos. Not dinosaurs, not birds, just straight-up evolutionary freelancers with major identity crises. These guys were like, wanna fly? Sure. Wings made of extended fingers and skin flaps? Let's go. Basically, if you taped an umbrella to a lizard and tossed it off a cliff, you'd get a budget version of a pterosaur. Some were small and zippy, Rhamphorhynchus, with a tail like an antenna and teeth that screamed, "Dental emergency." Others were absolute skychads like Quetzalcoatlus, with wingspans longer than a bus. Quetz didn't even flap that much. He just caught thermals and soared, judging everyone below with the energy of a jaded airline pilot. But here's the messy bit. Pterosaurs weren't good at landing. They'd crash into trees, cliffs, or just faceplant into sand like, evolution is hard. Okay? Most of their skeleton was hollow and fragile. So if a bad landing didn't kill them, a strong breeze might. Still, they were trendsetters. Long before birds, pterosaurs were rocking the aerial lifestyle, diving for fish, gliding over coastlines, and throwing shade, literally, over the heads of sauropods. They even had fuzzy body covering, not feathers, but something called pycnofibers, basically prehistoric peach fuzz. Adorable? Yes. Aerodynamic? They ruled the skies until they didn't, because birds were coming, quietly, stealthily, evolving in the shadows like some feathery tech startup ready to overthrow the sky's reigning influencers. But we'll get to that in a bit. Pterosaurs? They did their best. They weren't graceful. They weren't consistent. But they tried, and that's what matters. Feathers, fashion, and flappy fails. How dinosaurs accidentally invented birds. Okay, so here's where it gets juicy. Sometime during the late Jurassic, a few small, meat-eating dinosaurs were like, what if we didn't suck at thermoregulation? And evolution was like, say less. Enter feathers. Not for flight at first, no, just for keeping warm and looking fabulous. Think of it as the prehistoric version of a North Face jacket. Functional, but still drip. So you had these tiny dinosaurs, Maniraptorans, evolving fluff like proto-emo teens hiding in the shadows. They were fast, clever, and honestly kind of giving Sparkle's main character energy sparkles. Creatures like Enkiornis and Microraptor started testing the waters of gliding, climbing, and looking suspiciously birdish. And then came the diva herself, Archaeopteryx. She was the awkward middle child of evolution, half bird, half dinosaur, 100% drama. Wings? Check. Feathers? Slay. Teeth? Still here. Tail? Long and confusing. Archaeopteryx was like, I'm not a regular bird. I'm a cool bird. Basically the Avril Lavigne of the late Jurassic. Was she good at flying? Not really. More like, glide desperately and hope for the best. But evolution doesn't care about perfection. Cares about potential. And Archaeopteryx was the first blurry selfie in what would become the bird content empire. Meanwhile, the OG dinos were like, feathers? Lame. They laughed. They flexed. They mocked. Guess who's still alive? Yeah, not them. The great glow-up, when birds won evolution's biggest breakup. By the time the Cretaceous rolled around, the passive-aggressive rivalry between scaly dinosaurs and their feathery cousins was at full volume. On one side, you had T. Rex types, beefy, toothy, still clinging to the I don't need feathers, I'm hot already mentality. On the other side, birds were out here evolving wishbones, better wings, and actual flying skills. It was giving, my ex still yells from the driveway while I've moved to Paris and opened a bakery. Birds went full Gen Z light, adaptive, and extremely online. Well, if online meant aerial. They diversified faster than a crypto scam. From tiny flappers like Confuciusornis to water-loving Hesperornis, birds were invading every niche. Forests? Check. Lakes? Yup. airspace, dominated. The non-bird dinos mocked them, of course. Oh look, it's the little chicken with anxiety. But joke's on them because, boom, asteroid. The KT event shows up like an uninvited ex with rage issues and deletes 75% of life on Earth. The non-avian dinosaurs? Logged out permanently. The birds? Bruised, battered, but still here, tweeting from the apocalypse. So yes, modern birds are literally the last surviving dinosaurs. Your pet cockatoo? A mini T. Rex with better taste in music. Evolution didn't reward the biggest, strongest, or scariest. It rewarded the weirdos who could adapt, fly, and occasionally scream at sunrise. So you thought it was chill? Spoiler, it wasn't. Welcome to the last part of this Jurassic fever dream, the fake peace era, that lasted for a sweet 56 million years. Sounds long? Babe, in Earth years, that's barely a skincare routine. Let's rewind. Things were finally okay. Dinosaurs were vibing. Birds were flapping awkwardly like toddlers on their first scooter. Sauropods were chewing trees like oversized vegans. Forests were regrowing like your hair after a breakup. Crocodiles were doing their usual villain in a swamp aesthetic. Biodiversity was basically posting soft filter selfies with #NatureHeals. It was giving healing era. But you already know how this story goes. Right when everything seems peaceful and cute, the universe be like, y'all too comfortable. Let me shake things up. 1. The mood shift. Just like when your situationship suddenly needs space. Earth caught a vibe. And not the good kind. Continents started ghosting each other. Literal landmasses were like, "You're not the tectonic plate I thought you were," and started drifting apart. The atmosphere unfollowed CO2. Big mistake. Plants were like, "Wait, what the FK? I need that to breathe." Ecosystems got gaslit. Food chains collapsed. Predators were hungry. Prey disappeared, and everything felt like the plot of a horror movie with no budget. Climate changed its entire aesthetic. From hot and humid to, why is it snowing in July? Energy. Ice caps didn't fully form yet, but the vibes were getting frosty. Basically, imagine you're at a party, everyone's drunk dancing, and suddenly the lights turn on. The DJ packs up, and your ex shows up holding hands with your therapist. Yeah, that's Earth right now. The great unsubscribing. This wasn't an extinction-level event yet. Think of it as a mass soft launch into chaos. Species didn't disappear overnight, they just slowly gave up. Plants stopped thriving. Herbivores had nothing to munch. Carnivores had nothing to chase. Everyone was on the verge of logging out. If you've ever opened the fridge and found nothing but soy sauce and regret, or been ghosted after 3 months of texting every night, or realized your friend group broke up without telling you, congratulations. You spiritually understand late Jurassic Earth. Preparing for the finale. All this quiet collapse was just the opening act for what's coming next. The Cretaceous period. And new ecosystems will try to recover. Dinosaurs will try to stay relevant. Birds will try not to be eaten. Mammals will still be hiding in the shadows like introverts at a party. And somewhere, 65 million years down the road, a big rock from space is coming to press END on the dinosaur TikTok era. But for now, everyone's just pretending it's fine. A whole period of delusion. Life lesson from the Jurassic soap opera. You'd think 56 million years of stability means Earth had its act together. LOL no. Underneath the surface, this planet was charging its chaos battery. quietly stacking problems, smiling politely while suppressing a nervous breakdown. Just like you when you tell your boss, no worries at all, but internally scream? Do you reply, haha, no problem, to your ex asking for their hoodie back? Or you post feeling grateful while lying in bed, spiraling at 3 a.m.? Earth, like you, was holding it together with duct tape and a prayer. Final thought: birds, drama, and surviving anyway. Remember the birds? The awkward little flappers from earlier? They'll be the only dinosaurs to survive the mass extinction. They'll get better at flying. They'll colonize the skies. Some will become flamingos. Some will scream at 5 a.m. for no reason. Some will poop on your car. Evolution doesn't make you prettier or smarter. It just helps you not die. So if you're currently failing upward, crying while being productive, posting memes to distract from your existential dread, congratulations. You're doing what dinosaurs couldn't. You're surviving. Moral of the story: if the Jurassic taught us anything, it's this: stability is usually a lie. Drama is inevitable. Change comes whether you're ready or not. But with enough awkward flapping, screaming, and maybe a little luck, you might just become a bird. Now take a breath, drink some water, and prepare for the next season of Earth's reality show, The Cretaceous Chronicles, where things get messy, meteoric, and magnificently memeable. To be continued. 56 million years of peace, and then boom, back to chaos. Let's rewind, shall we? After the Kaitam Deep, aka the Triassic period, did a full-on rage quit with mass extinctions, volcanic tantrums, and ecosystem meltdowns, Earth kind of looked around like, yeah, that might have been a bit much. So what did it do? Enter the Jurassic, like a bad ex saying, sorry about the drama, here's some peace and dinosaurs with longer necks. Plants glowed up. Forests came back stronger, taller, and more photogenic. Like nature said, new phone, who dis? Dinosaurs? Hit the gym, bulked up, and started flirting like it was Tinder for T-Rexes. Swipe right if you're into thunder thighs and tail whips. Birds, aka flying dino wannabes, tried flying, failed, tried again, crashed into trees, but eventually managed to glide just enough to go, Mom, I did it. I'm airborne. Crocodiles, chilled like old uncles in bathtubs, floating silently and pretending they weren't part of last season's extinction drama. Pterosaurs screamed through the skies like a group of Gen Zs discovering cheap flight tickets to Bali, screeching, flapping, posting sky selfies. Basically, the world looked like it had just finished therapy, dumped toxic relationships, joined a yoga class, and was now posting soft-lit sunset pics with the caption, Healing Era. For 56 million years, things were stable, which in Earth terms is basically one nap long. But if we've learned anything from life, it's this: if things are too quiet, drama is loading. The climate mood swing edition. Out of nowhere, Earth went from warm and humid, like a beach vacation in Bali, to chilly AF and unpredictable, like your crush who leaves you on read but watches every single one of your stories. Rain? Sure. Drought? Also yes. Wildfires, then floods, then everything at once? Let's keep it spicy. Plants were like, excuse me? We just came back from extinction. And animals started giving side-eye to the sky like it owed them money. Tectonic plates playing Jenga again. Continents started drifting apart faster than your group chat after graduation. Pangea, that once iconic landmass, was like, it's not you, it's me. So it broke up into Laurasia and Gondwana, giving us the OG long-distance relationship. This triggered earthquakes, new oceans forming, and a lot of confused dinosaurs suddenly finding themselves beachfront property owners. Meanwhile, under Earth's skin, volcanoes began mumbling again. And if you've read The Vibes right, you know volcanoes mumbling equals something's cooking. Magma bubbles, tectonic tension, CO2 building up like your unread emails. All the signs of a big fat plot twist. But did dinosaurs notice? Absolutely not. They were too busy, eating non-stop, growing so big they needed 4 legs just to carry the drama, yelling at each other in loud roars that translated to, "This fern is mine," and treating every open plain like a runway for their flex walks. To them, life was a non-stop eat, sleep, roar, repeat. No LinkedIn, no stress, just vibes. Jurassic, Earth's everything is fine era. Imagine someone sipping boba while the world burns in the background. That's the Jurassic period. Dinosaurs were having the time of their lives, romancing under ferns, doing tail flips for fun, and acting like they were untouchable. And honestly, they kinda were, for a while, until they weren't. The universe had other plans, because right around the corner, waiting silently, was the Kai Fan Trang, Cretaceous, and it wasn't here to chill. It was here to serve chaos on a comet. But for now, the Jurassic was Earth's healing glow-up phase. Like that 6-month period when you go to therapy, get into crystals, read one self-help book, and think, yeah, I got this. Except the universe was quietly pressing Control plus Alt plus boom. TLDR, Jurassic lasted 56 million years. Everything looked fine. But beneath the calm, Earth was quietly refilling its drama tank. Because what's Earth without a little chaos? Peaceful, boring, booming with volcanic rage and skyfire extinction? Now that's the Earth we know. Buckle up. The next chapter's gonna slap. 3. Let's rewind a bit. After that absolute disaster of a season finale at the end of the Triassic, aka the mass extinction that yeeted half the planet, Earth went full savage mode. Forests? Toasted. Oceans? Acidified. Dinosaurs? Stressed. It was giving toxic breakup energy, like Mother Nature decided to block the entire biosphere and start journaling. But then, like every rom-com plot twist, came the Jurassic, the ultimate rebound era. And Earth? She walked in like, sorry for the drama, let me make it up to you. Cue rainforests, cue stable climate, cue massive dinosaurs doing deadlifts in the gym of evolution. The Jurassic vibe. When the world hit healing mode, trees grew back like that one friend who bounces back after a breakup and suddenly starts baking banana bread, doing yoga, and not replying to texts. Sauropods, the long-necked gentle giants, started roaming around like influencers at Coachella, all neck, no brain, vibing peacefully in prehistoric botanical gardens. Stegosaurus? Oh, they were walking memes. All spike, no chill. Imagine wearing roof tiles on your back and dragging a tail with 4 giant murder kebabs, just to tell predators, back off, Karen. Pterosaurs soared overhead like they just unlocked paragliding mode and were determined to scream about it every 5 minutes. Look at me, I'm flying. Oops, tree. Crocodilians? Chillin'. Literally. They just lay in swamps like, this ain't my drama anymore. I survived the last extinction. Do not disturb. Even early birds were flapping awkwardly into existence like, I'm not a dinosaur. I'm independent now. 56 million years of stable vibes. So yeah, the Jurassic was Earth's self-care arc. like that peaceful period where you drink herbal tea, delete your ex's playlist, and pretend global catastrophe never happened. For 56 million years, things were surprisingly chill. Life diversified, ecosystems stabilized. There were no surprise volcano tantrums or asteroid flying elbows from the sky. It was the first time Earth hit the cruise control button. Continents started slow dancing across the globe. Coral reefs made a comeback concert. Dinosaurs went full Broadway. Some grew feathers, others went fashion-forward with frills, horns, or headbutts. It was like the golden era of Netflix, before the price hikes. Everyone had a role. Herbivores munched. Carnivores lunged. The skies, the seas, the forests, they all had their main characters and background dancers. Ecosystem harmony was at an all-time high. The drama Earth was silently cooking. You thought the Jurassic would last forever? Haha, sweet child. Because just when Earth starts to get her life together, the universe hits her with a "you up" text at 3 a.m. and boom, climate starts acting shady. First it's warm, then it's freezing, then it's moist, then dry, like an ex who says, "Let's stay friends," and then ghosts you and your dog. Oceans starting to throw mood swings. Oxygen levels begin to drop in certain parts. Plankton kinda dying. Sea reptiles having a rough time. Volcanoes stretching their lava pipes like, "We might need to speak to the manager soon." Plants evolve flowers behind the scenes. Bees still in beta testing. But something's coming. Something big. It's not just one drama. It's the opening act for a new era. And spoiler alert, the next chapter won't be as peacefully Jurassic as this one. A soft existential crisis, but make it prehistoric. Let's be real, Earth has main character syndrome. She can't go 10 million years without reinventing herself. And every time life settles into a routine, boom, something happens. Asteroids, lava floods, climate chaos, toxic gases, breakup extinctions. You name it. It's like the planet's motto is, growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. It happens when I yeet you into a volcano. That's evolution for you. Not a straight line. Not a glow-up montage. It's stumbling forward in the dark, falling into holes, mutating by accident, and occasionally inventing eyeballs or wings just because the universe got bored. So where do you fit in? Maybe you're lying in bed right now, replaying your awkward high school years or wondering why your plants keep dying. Let's zoom out a bit. You are the product of billions of lucky accidents. Your ancestors were not the smartest, or strongest, or fastest. They were just the ones who didn't give up. A fish once wiggled onto land, not because it had a 5-year plan, but because its puddle dried up. A mammal survived the dinosaur apocalypse by being small, scared, and probably extremely snack-sized. Someone way down your bloodline outlived cold snaps, heat waves, ice ages, pandemics, and the temptation to retext their ex. You come from a long, messy line of survivors. So if today didn't go your way, if you forgot something, failed something, felt like you were stuck in Jurassic mud, that's okay. Your DNA remembers how to heal. It remembers how to rest. The soothing end, evolution's bedtime story. Let this chapter be your scented candle, your warm blanket, your slow exhale. Tonight, the dinosaurs have gone to sleep. The forests are quiet. The volcanoes are off duty. Even the pterosaurs have finally shut up. You're floating now, not in space, not in time, but in that soft, weightless silence between heartbeats, between thoughts, between worlds. The world has always been chaotic, but you right now get to pause. You get to breathe. Imagine the earth beneath your bed, layers of history cradling you, lava rock, fossil beds, silent bones of titans past. They are all whispering the same lullaby. You don't have to be the strongest. You just have to be stubborn enough to keep going. Rest now. You're part of a story billions of years in the making. You've earned this breath, this stillness, this peace. So let go. Let the forests of the Jurassic fade into fog. Let the thunder of sauropod footsteps dissolve into dreams. Let the stars above the ancient skies dim like old campfires, gently snuffed out. You are here, still here, healing one heartbeat at a time. Good night from the age of giants. So now, dear listener, we've traveled far, through steaming swamps and volcanic tantrums, through forests that breathed like living temples, and skies that cracked open to let the dreams of birds escape. We've watched the earth reinvent itself over and over again. We've seen gentle creatures rise and thunder-footed giants fall. And somehow, in this mess of lava, feathers, and fern leaves, we found something strangely familiar. A pulse, a rhythm, a stubborn little whisper that said, "Keep going." And maybe, just maybe, you needed to hear that today. Let's rewind for a moment, beyond dinosaurs, beyond Pangea, beyond the dramatic exits and entrances of Earth's million-year cast. Let's go back to where it all began, a silent rock spinning in the dark. No TikTok, no deadlines, no DMs left unseen, just silence. And then one day a sigh, a shimmer, a spark, not a bang, not a miracle, just the universe clearing its throat. And from that one quiet cough of cosmic dust, Earth began its slow, clumsy ballet. Was it graceful? Not even close. She stumbled, she cracked, she almost gave up. But every single time she broke, she bloomed again. And that, dear soul, is the story your body has been whispering to you this whole time. You are not made of perfection. You are made of persistence. Your lungs are tidal fossils. Your heartbeat is the echo of meteor impacts. And your tears? Salty proof you still carry the ocean inside you. So whatever happened today, whatever made your chest tighten, or your smile fade, or your brain spiral into self-doubt, let it go now. You are safe here. You're in good company. Floating gently on the crust of a planet that's been to hell and back more times than your Wi-Fi has glitched. And she's still spinning. So breathe with her, like the first wave that kissed the shore, like a fern unrolling in slow motion, like the wings of a bird before it knew it could fly, like a dinosaur finally learning to nap under a tree. And now, let's lie down in the softest part of the Earth story, the part where time stops chasing us and dreams begin to walk. Imagine a meadow tucked between the roots of ancient mountains. It's dusk, not the flashy, Instagrammable kind of dusk, but the soft one, the kind that wraps around your thoughts like your grandmother's sweater. The sky is lavender and gold. The stars haven't arrived yet, but they've texted. They're on their way. All around you, the earth exhales. Crickets tune their tiny violins. Trees hum lullabies in chlorophyll tones. Even the wind has curled up to nap. You are here, not because you earned it, not because you pushed harder or smiled brighter or answered that email in under 3 minutes. You are here because you belong, just like the first fish that dared to crawl, just like the fern that refused to wilt, just like the tiny mammal who looked at a T-Rex and whispered, "Okay, sure, but I'm gonna outlive you." You don't need to be the strongest. You don't need to win. You don't need to transform overnight. You just need to be a little bit stubborn about staying. Stay with the breath. Stay with the quiet. Stay with this weird little miracle called you. Because the truth is, healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. A survivor, a soft animal with ancient bones, a miracle in motion, wrapped in skin, unsure of everything, but still choosing to try. So now, as your body sinks deeper into your bed, as your limbs grow heavy like stones in a river, as your thoughts start to blur and soften like moss underfoot, know this: you are part of something ancient. You are not broken. You are becoming. Even on the days when your mind screams otherwise. Even on the nights when sleep hides from you like a shy animal. Even now, let me tell you what Earth would say if she could hold your hand right now. She would not lecture you. She would not ask you to be more. She would say, "You've already done enough for today. You grew. You laughed, maybe, or maybe you cried. You carried your mind through another orbit of doubts and dreams. You showed up." And then she'd press a warm palm to your forehead and whisper, "Rest now. Let me carry you for a while." So let the leaves fall. Let the tectonic plates drift. Let the world spin without your input for a few hours. You've earned your quiet. Tonight, your only job is to float. Float on a bed of moss and molten memory. Float through the carbon-sweet breath of forests long gone. Float on the lullaby of every creature that ever dared to live, love, and lose. Because in the end, life isn't measured in likes or goals or perfectly curated routines. It's measured in the moments when you chose peace over panic, rest over rage, presence over performance. So here we are. The story of Earth continues tomorrow. New chapters, new plot twists, new existential memes. But for now, we close the book. Let the dinosaurs snore in the background. Let the jellyfish drift like glowing commas. Let the wind hush the volcanoes to sleep. And let your breath join the oldest rhythm of all, the rise and fall of a planet learning how to hold herself with grace. You are safe. You are enough. You are home. Good night, time traveler. Sleep well, my fellow miracle. We'll meet again at sunrise, when the rocks are warm and the birds start gossiping. Until then, drift deep, dream wild, heal slow. Jurassic side quests. Things you didn't know about the world's most dramatic era. So, you've met the long-necked sauropods. You've admired the Stegosaurus with its mohawk plates and its wildly confusing tail spikes. You've probably memorized every sound Jurassic Park has ever used for A.T. Rex. Even though, plot twist, T. Rex didn't even exist in the Jurassic. He's more of a Cretaceous diva. We'll talk about him later. But what if I told you the Jurassic was even weirder than you think? Grab a mossy seat. Welcome to the bonus reel. The things the textbook skipped. The Earth was basically on steroids. The Jurassic period was like Earth's awkward teenage phase. Not in a bad way. More like a time when the planet was suddenly growing way too fast, discovering makeup, aka flowers on the horizon, and trying bold new looks. The continents hadn't yet broken into the clean-cut versions we know. Instead, there was this massive supercontinent called Pangaea that had just started to split. The Atlantic Ocean, just a baby rift. This made things extra spicy for life, because as continents pulled apart, they formed massive rift valleys, new coastlines, and long chains of volcanoes that released greenhouse gases like an over-caffeinated espresso machine. Result? global warming but prehistoric edition. It was warm, humid, and jungle-like in many places. Think, ferns taller than your house, cycad forests that looked like every fantasy movie's magical realm, and dragonfly-sized insects casually photobombing dinosaurs. Dinosaurs were still figuring themselves out. Believe it or not, Jurassic dinosaurs weren't the final boss versions we often imagine. A lot of them were, well, experimental. They were like nature's beta tests. Some models were majestic, others just plain funky. Take Stegosaurus, for example. Looks like a dinosaur, fights like a medieval weapon. But did you know its brain was about the size of a walnut? Yep, a creature the size of a van with a brain smaller than your AirPods case. It even had a weird nerve cluster near its hips that early scientists mistakenly thought might be a second brain. Spoiler, it wasn't. Stego was just chill. Then there's Dilophosaurus, famous for spitting venom in movies. But the real one, no venom, no neck frills, just a flashy double crest on its head, which likely existed solely to impress mates or look cooler than its cousins. Because even in the Jurassic, style mattered. Pterosaurs, not dinosaurs, still dramatic. If you thought flying reptiles were just dino sidekicks, think again. The skies of the Jurassic were ruled by pterosaurs, and they were drama queens of the highest order. These weren't just big birds. These were the first vertebrates to fly, and some of them had truly ridiculous head crests. Imagine rocking a 5-foot-long hat just to say, "Look at me, I'm single." Dimorphodon, for instance, had a cartoonishly large head with tiny wings, like a confused bat. Rhamphorhynchus had a long tail with a kite-shaped fin at the end. Why? Probably for steering, or just to win prehistoric Fashion Week. And no, pterosaurs aren't the ancestors of birds either. Birds evolved from small feathered dinosaurs. But that didn't stop the pterosaurs from owning the sky for millions of years. Jurassic oceans were basically monster movie sets. While the land was busy with giant lizards learning how to socialize, the oceans were terrifying. Meet the pliosaur, a marine reptile with a jaw like a truck and teeth bigger than your fingers. Or the sleek, dolphin-like ichthyosaurs, who gave birth to live young tail first underwater. Seriously, nature thought of everything. There were also ammonites, spiral-shelled mollusks that floated in the sea like trippy jellyfish UFOs. Jurassic seas were warm, shallow, and teeming with life. Coral reefs, crustaceans, giant fish, and predators that make modern sharks look like goldfish. And here's the part that people often miss. The oceans were evolving just as fast as the land. New ecosystems were forming. Food chains were shifting. It was a renaissance of swim or be eaten, and evolution loved it. Plants were secretly running the show. Behind the flashy roars and stomping feet, the true architects of the Jurassic world were the plants. They created the climate, fed the herbivores, shaped the soil, and even altered the atmosphere. There were no flowers yet. This was still the age of gymnosperms. Ferns, conifers, ginkgo trees, and cycads. Conifers grew tall and straight, forming dark, majestic forests. Ferns carpeted the earth like green lace. And cycads? They looked like palm trees but were tougher than a caffeinated cactus. These ancient plants were so good at surviving heat and drought that some of them still exist today. Barely changed. That little sago palm in your grandma's garden? Jurassic legacy, baby. Even more amazing. These plants absorbed carbon dioxide, stabilized the air, and helped cool the earth bit by bit, proving that you don't need to move or roar to change the world. It was a time of quiet bravery. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Not every creature in the Jurassic was a star. Most were small, shy, struggling. Tiny mammals the size of mice lived underfoot, hiding from predators, chewing on insects, surviving in the shadows. They didn't have strength or speed, but they had something else: endurance. They adapted, they waited, and one day, long after the dinosaurs had logged off for good, it was the mammals who inherited the Earth. Which brings us to the real lesson of the Jurassic. Change is inevitable, and so is survival. Everything you know and love about this time, the forests, the seas, the thunder lizards and flying beasts, was temporary. Even the continents didn't stay still. Even the strongest creatures had expiration dates. But life never gave up. Stumbled, adapted, reinvented itself. And again it rose, just like you. So next time you feel a little lost in this chaotic world, remember, once upon a time, this planet was ruled by creatures with walnut brains and 5-foot crests. The oceans were full of monsters. The sky was claimed by leathery wings. And yet, the tiniest mammals waited patiently in the dark. The first bird fluttered, clumsy and brave, from a branch. The first flower dared to bloom. Change is messy. Growth is awkward. But the Jurassic reminds us, every age has its weirdness. And every species, no matter how small or strange, has its moment to shine. Your time will come too.